miniature soldiers, spicy opinions. This is the Conclave Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Conclave Podcast. I'm the Sandman, and joining me today we have Adam, the legal department. How are you, Adam?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm good. We have BDR. How are you, BDR?
Hello.
And we have the Warhipster joining us again, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today, the Warhipster?
I'm great. I'm just a bit confused because you've read out everybody's name, but it isn't what it actually says on my screen in front of me. Legal department? What's your what is your name on the screen currently?
Oh, I don't know. It's unfortunately I'm logged in through our friend Quipster's account on this, and there's something on here about just a note reminding him to pay Siege Studios. I don't know. It's not clear.
That's what I can see there. It says Quipster's army is painted by Siege. Yeah.
There we go. That's the one.
Yeah. And BDR, that stands for what?
Oh, it's meant to be Big Dick Rich, but Ed is now the Big Dick in here, apparently.
Oh, yeah, okay.
BDE.
No, I'm cool with that.
I've been downgraded to SDR. I'll let people figure out what that means.
Standard definition rich?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we kind of had to have the Warhipster on tonight because he plays Deathwatch and Spacewolves. That's kind of a poor excuse because he plays everything, but Deathwatch and Spacewolves are two things he really, really loves. So we thought we would kind of cover Deathwatch and Spacewolves today because, as everybody knows, their codexes came out this weekend. And if you bought them, you should have got them the previous Saturday, which is very exciting. So I think let's talk about Deathwatch first because I'm fascinated by Deathwatch. And I was saying to the guys earlier, I've probably only played them maybe half a dozen times in my life. You really don't see them that much, and I don't know too much about the lore. So, Josh, what are Deathwatch?
Well, Deathwatch are Space Marines, and that's all you need to know. No, the Deathwatch
stunning level of insight here. You know, you do realise, just to say, sorry, you do realise I trailed this on the previous episode of the podcast, saying that you would be giving us the expert opinion, and you've walked on here and you should be ashamed of yourself, sir. No, I'm kidding. Carry on.
That was the expert opinion. That Deathwatch are Space Marines.
Can we fact check that statement, please?
We can. 1 second. Let me just. Yeah, it's correct. Yes. No. Okay, so the Deathwatch, they are one of the militant wings of the Inquisition, but they also kind of stand apart as most Space Marines do. And they are specifically Xenos hunters. So they are, the true racists of the galaxy. Because they suffer from really, really intense xenophobia, really intense xenophobia. So the Deathwatch, they don't do something that most Space Marines chapters or organizations do, where they are a kind of affiliated organization with a home world and this, that, and the other, and they recruit aspirants and they go through all the trials and this, that, and the other. No. The Deathwatch recruit their Space Marines from other Space Marine chapters and generally hardened veterans of those chapters.
Do they have a criteria, like the most xenophobic people they take, or?
Well, that comes later. So usually what happens is that these guys will
the high wizards
accomplish something. Yeah, the grand wizards will receive their reports of superb xenophobia going on. No, what happens is effectively chapters generally have some have like a tithe where they will nominate members for the Deathwatch, and there others don't. It's always considered an honor to join the Deathwatch, but quite often they will be Space Marines that have achieved some form of incredible feat against Xenos. So it might be that there might be one surviving battle brother who, I don't know, brought down 16 Viper jet bikes by himself after his entire squad was killed and makes it off-world. And then they go, hey, that was really good Xenos killing. We think you should go and, do that for a living. And so they will go and join the Deathwatch. So the Deathwatch don't generally. They're not kind of we have a quota to fulfill. They don't go around like just reaping Space Marines from people, going, yeah, come on. It's not like a called up thing. It's almost like you can get called up, but you can also get nominated, and it's considered a really high honor.
So it's like jury service then,
a little bit,
but with a gun.
A little bit. You basically think of the French Foreign Legion.
Every day.
And then apply that to Space Marines. So it's almost like a voluntary organization for soldiers to go and do soldiering, in a way. So as part of that, though, there is also something called, and I think everybody here is familiar with them, the Black Shields. Yeah. They are Space Marines that have no home to go to. So they can be, ex-traitors. They can be the last survivor of a chapter. Basically just someone who has no affiliation or whatever. So within the Deathwatch, what happens is those kinds of Space Marines, they go to a watch fortress and basically present themselves before the Watchmaster, and the Watchmaster can just choose to take them in. And at that point, no questions asked. Your past is forgiven because now you are a part of the Deathwatch. This is your sole focus. And they kind of, someone was actually talking the other day about but what if there were Alpha Legion that had infiltrated the Deathwatch? So what? Who cares? All they're doing is killing aliens. That's it. It's nothing. It's not like Alpha Legion infiltrating the Grey Knights, where that would be a problem, or Alpha Legion infiltrating Custodes or Custodes just to annoy Custards, or Alpha Legion. It doesn't matter, because once you're in the Deathwatch, your sole purpose is killing Xenos. And so effectively, these hardened veterans join an elite special ops group, and that's when the psycho indoctrination, that's when all the racism gets burned into them. So even though they are full Space Marines, they go through a complete re-indoctrination process, where they'll be shown all of the most awful kind of picked feeds and things of Xenos, ripping apart Space Marines and stuff. So, stuff to really kind of rile them up into, you need to take this shit seriously, brother.
So Fox News then. Fox News.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Is there much tension at all that comes from the Inquisition telling Space Marines what to do? Does that come about?
Not really. And also they kind of almost act independently. So you will have Ordo Xenos Inquisitors who will occasionally work with a watch group. I can't remember what they're called now. But
Kill team?
No, so a kill team is a component of a watch, basically.
Okay.
So you'll have a watch fortress, for example, that will have multiple kill teams. And kill teams, for example, they are quite. It's when you really dig down into the fluff. There's no whilst the rules, as I'm sure we will find out, the rules kind of go. We're going to have these 7 or 8 things. You get this combination of things. What you actually see in kill teams is they kind of develop over time, in terms of the storyline. So if anyone has ever looked at Kill Team Cassius as a box, that's not a predetermined formation. That is just each Space Marine within that unit fulfilling its, the thing that it's best at. And it is just a component of that one squad. But yeah, they and also kill teams can sort of kind of move. And I'm guessing, I haven't read the supplement yet, but with the new Primaris, that's even more so. I mean, it's always been that way. A Space Marine can be a Tactical Marine, an Assault Marine, a Devastator Marine. And actually the Space Marines that are joining the Deathwatch, they've already been through, they're not reserve Marines. They're not, 8th Company, 9th Company. They're not Scouts. These are guys who are battle line company Marines. So they've done it all. They are experts already, and then they become further experts. So I'm really struggling to remember what it's called. I could open the book.
Or...
No, it is. It's called it's a watch something. like because you've got Watchmaster and Watch Captain. It's a watch something. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah. Is that enough for Deathwatch? There's loads. We can keep going if you want.
But so, did you say how long do they serve for? Because I know Uriel Ventris, for example. This is my limited knowledge of it. He served and then came back to the Ultramarines and then became a captain, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of. I mean, Cassius served. Chaplain Cassius.
Is it station, Josh? Sorry, watch station.
A watch station would be where they hang out, but it wouldn't necessarily be what the name of the entire force is. It's what it might just be called a watch company. It might just be called a watch company. I will open book in a minute and actually have a look.
It is a watch company. Yeah.
There you go.
I
got that just
Wikipedia.
There we go. Yeah, we were overthinking it. Okay, well that's awesome. And then, so following on this, then Josh, what are Space Wolves?
Space Wolves are unwashed barbarian dogs.
Fantastic. So moving on, we have a very exciting time for you, ladies and gentlemen. So I
would just like to cut in there.
Okay.
Because I feel like that was a bit too harsh on my part for the Space Wolves. No, I adore
Vilka Fenrique, just furious right now.
There's so many people who are raging right now. No, actually, that's an interesting thing. Is that whilst they give off the appearance of being unwashed barbarians, they actually aren't. They're probably up there in amongst the most noble of the Space Marine.
I thought you were going to say most hygienic.
I wouldn't say that. But then, can space? I've always wondered this: do Space Marines get dirty?
Yes, they do, and the reason I know this is going back to the conversation we were having just before we were recording about the book Dante, which I'm currently reading at the moment. And just to be clear, Josh, I know you haven't read it. This is not a spoiler for anything important. There is a point where Dante is taking off his armor. Amusingly, he gets his armor taken off by his sort of armorium servants. And he talks about the stink of a Space Marine, and he says, we are superhuman. You know, the sort of book says they're superhuman, but they're still human, and they still sweat. And because of all their enhanced biological processes, it has like a particular sort of smell to it, basically. And then he does quite literally go into like a sort of chemical shower thing in his like body glove to get rid of all of the tyrannid goop that he's covered in. So they do smell. So either the Space Wolves smell really bad, like real Vikings realistically did, or they're big fans of a lot of like cleansing of the beards and the long hair, and it's all very sort of L'Oreal commercial.
We just had a Conclave exclusive there. Space Marines wash.
If you would like that artwork, please contact our legal department.
Get onto GW's request line for unique Space Marine artwork.
Yeah, no, so yeah, okay. Well, there we go. That answers that question. But they are obviously one of the first founding chapters, and they are probably my second favorite, because of that way that they conduct themselves. And when I read Wolfsbane not too long ago, and that's probably the first book in the series that actually really just kind of, I'm pretty certain about this, that it is the first one from Russ's perspective, a whole book from Russ's perspective, mostly. And actually you learn so much more about him, and how, you know, he talks endlessly, and all the characters around him talk about how there's always this kind of, you sense the true regality of him, and that he holds it back behind this veneer of.
Well, isn't there a fantastic line? Isn't something like whereas Sanguinius is the savage noble, no, the noble savage, he is the savage noble, something like that. Is that
something like that? Yeah.
He's actually likened to Sanguinius quite a lot. From like Malcador's point of view, for example.
Yeah, and there's a great bit in I think it's Thousand Suns, or it's the other one, Burning of Prospero, when it's right at the beginning when they're attacking some form of space station, and the journalist that we're following along it with is basically goes along for the ride, and they're like, the Space Wolves are like all, you know, climbing this these walls and these gantries and stuff, and he comments on how, like, they're climbing with such poise and balance and grace that belies their size, but also the true savage look of what they are. That he would expect all of the the fangs and the stone reliefs and all of the furs and pelts to be clanging around, making a hell of a racket, but they are so it's that hidden grace within them that they're moving silently like a Space Marine would. So they really lean into the whole idea of being a space wolf, and they are all space wolves, but they're not what they appear to be under at a surface level, which is brilliant, because a lot of the other Space Marine chapters, they are what you see is what you get. Like even Blood Angels, what you see with them are these we talked last time we mentioned, I was talking about Blood Angels with you, Adam. We talked, the Blood Angels gene seed is so stable and that it basically works on anyone, and it basically turns you into the best version of humanity that you could possibly be. So you could be an utter mutated husk and come out a perfection of angelic beauty. And at the surface level, that's what Blood Angels are, but deep within them there is that rage, so there's that other kind of deep level. But yeah, so the Space Wolves, they are so complex, and they are so worth getting into, but they are so obsessed with storylines, and that's what makes them amazing, because it is all about deeds and sagas and heroic stories and character. And that is what is beautiful about the chapter, is whilst on the face of it they look like unwashed barbarians, there is a deep, rich history behind all of them, and that's what makes them a really exciting army to discuss, because there's just depth for days with these guys.
So it's almost like they are like the real Vikings in many ways, right?
Well, I almost, they're more like the pantheon of Norse gods, I would say.
Yeah.
Like how, much like in the Marvel universe, do you know what I mean? They are more like Thor and his kindred, or Odin and his kindred, that than they are of the actual Vikings themselves. Because you would look at those gods and you look at the depictions of them, they are all big, hairy, bearded, but within the godlike pantheon, there is so much kind of just nuance and nobility and savagery all combined into one deep, complex thing. So it's really tough to answer who are the Space Wolves, because there is a lot to cover. I
mean, if it's like you mentioned Wolfsbane, and I completely agree. I loved that book, and there are so many talking points. It's been quite a while since I read that, but there are so many just really fascinating parts to that book. Not that it is everything, but just one thing I do want to mention is the Space Wolves are the first loyalist legion to be found. And that is something that shouldn't be downplayed. Like, a very important factor in that book. They are second only to the Lunar Wolves. For some reason, the Emperor found his dogs first. I don't know exactly why. But cool. I think we'll definitely circle around to Russ later on, because Russ is definitely
so good.
I adored him.
Yeah, there might be an interesting topic, because the last episode we spoke so much about Primarchs, well, particularly.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we want to just say who Russ is? Because we're mentioning him a lot, and if people are new to the hobby, they may just have no idea who he is.
You know what I will say, actually, listeners who listen to the last podcast would have heard me drone on for an hour or so about the Lion, and Russ is, in my opinion, very different to the Lion, and very similar in a lot of respects. So the reason he's very different is because whereas the Lion has these incredible feats but is very poorly written, Russ is incredibly well written but does some really weird shit in the books. Okay, so and likewise, Russ is described as this incredibly complex and fascinating character. He is the Primarch. He is the Wolf King, and like all the Primarchs except Angron, he conquered his homeworld before the Emperor found him. And very, very famously, didn't want to submit to the Emperor right away, like a lot of the Primarchs did. He actually challenged the Emperor to 3 contests, including a drinking contest, which he beats the Emperor in.
That's brilliant.
And eventually does relent. And it is in the reunification of Horus and the Space Wolves where Wolfsbane starts. And it is an absolutely fascinating paragraph and really makes you kind of understand so much about Horus as well.
He kind of hates him, doesn't he? Like Horus is like, because up until that point, Horus and the Emperor have been crusading together as best pals, as father and son, only child, for it's like 50 years at that point. So they've done it all, they've seen it all, they've been everywhere together. And then suddenly he gets told, "Oh, I found one of your brothers." And that's when Horus is realizing in that instant that he is not the only special one, the special anointed one in the galaxy. He always knew that he wasn't, but he's now realizing that he actually isn't. And when he meets Russ, he expects to see a vision of himself, and instead he sees someone completely different, and he's like, "I don't like him. Take him away." Like all, if you're
siblings,
like you don't know what your mum and dad are bringing home when you're like 2 or 3, and they bring home a baby, and you're like, "Oh no, get rid of it. I don't want that." Suddenly, I'm no longer the most important thing in my parents' life, and it's the same. You see it happening in Horus. It's really interesting.
Except this is a 10-foot baby with a chainsword, so. Small differences, right? Small differences.
Like, I think is it Russ challenge or is it Horus challenges Russ, and Russ is just like Horus is like, "I wonder who'd win in a fight between us," and Russ is like, "Guess we'll never. We could find out if you like." And then Horus is like, he almost thinks about it, doesn't he? There and then he's like,
he's like, "Brothers fight."
And then it's like, "No, we won't. Nah."
And
but there's always a tension between them because of that, and it's why he kind of always hates. He's always hated Russ more than he has any other. Not hated, but he's always been more wary of it. He's got more of a competitive streak with Russ because he was the first. After that, Horus is used to finding his brothers by then. But
Ferrus is a very inoffensive character. It's like you can't get annoyed. I will promise not to hijack this podcast, but I would be remiss not to mention the lion as we were talking about Russ. So the relationship
we need a klaxon for this.
The relationship between Russ and the lion is probably one of my favorite parts about the lion. It is super interesting, and it's covered predominantly in Russ's Primarch book. And I will say this is one of the reasons Russ is such a good character. I think from the reader's point of view and from Russ's point of view, Russ kind of wins the competition. And the reason he does this is because the lion, actually, as we mentioned in the other podcast, doesn't really grow as a character. And even though the lion wins their initial contest, they essentially have a fight after a warlord who insults Russ, and it's the lion that kills him before Russ gets there. And so Russ ultimately punches the lion, and they have a big fight, and then the lion eventually knocks the Wolf King out. And then ultimately they have another small fight at the Siege of Terra. But the thing is, from the reader's point of view, and like I say, and you really should read Leman Russ's Primarch book to get this, but Russ wins the competition because Russ is the one that transitions from Thor to Odin. He makes those character developments that are so fascinating. And whereas if the lion comes back today, we're seeing the same old guy that we used to see. The idea of Russ coming back in 40k is just like, we have no idea what we're seeing because he's this genius, mature man or god now who maybe has found the Tree of Life. Apparently, that's the old fluff, isn't it? He went to search for the Tree of Life with Trajan. I'm guessing they won't do that, but I'm fascinated to see what if they ever bring Leman Russ back. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So I think moving on, let's move on to our very, very first unboxing for the Conclave podcast. So as I mentioned, the Saturday just gone for you listeners will have been when your Space Wolves and Deathwatch supplements will have arrived. And Josh has also got them because Josh collects everything. So Josh, just take it away.
Well, I mean, which one do you want first? We've got both. This is a first for me. This is a live unboxing.
Let's stick with the order. Let's go Deathwatch first.
Deathwatch first. All right. Let me just grab my book. I've got it here. As everyone can see.
What does it smell like?
I don't know yet. I haven't opened it.
Okay.
Literally.
Stand down.
This is my knife. Listen. Yeah.
Ooh.
See? I've got the knife, and now I'm just going to cut into the cellophane. Don't know if you can hear this.
It's kind of sensual.
It's ASMR.
We will be releasing a Conclave podcast ASMR album at some point in the future for all of you who want to listen.
I'm going to peel the cellophane off now. Like that. It wasn't perfectly done, but no one can see that. There we go. We've got the book open. Yes, I'm very excited by this. Yeah, as you had mentioned, I do have a Deathwatch army. In fact, when 8th edition started, they were going to be my army, the Deathwatch, and I built this enormous 5,000 points worth, and then I realized that I was never going to get through it, so I built 2 sets worth of Dark Imperium plus one of every single release that came out in that short period after Dark Imperium came out as Deathwatch. And then I was just sat looking at it, and I was like, there's about 200 models here. There's no way I'm going to do all of it. So I sold about 190 of them, which I do regret now. But
what did you do for the shoulder pads there? Because I didn't collect Dark Imperium, but weren't the shoulder pads already on? Did you have to cut them off, or?
Yeah. Shit.
Oh wow!
There was a lot of hobby work went into that. I'll tell you.
Wow, that's a lot. Wow, fair play. I think we should mention as well, just because it is incredibly impressive, that some of your Deathwatch models are the ones that you've painted are on Tabletop Tactics. So
that's correct. Yes.
So there's a good chance a lot of our viewers will have seen those models. Beard's army for
Beard's Primaris, majority of it. I think he's actually started paying a lot of it now. So things like the kill teams. I did a load. It was about 50 Primaris Marines I did for him. They were really fun to do. It's like so in many ways I was quite glad that I didn't paint all of my Deathwatch Marines, because otherwise I never would have done those for Beard, because I got to a point where I think I'd been commissioned 4 times to paint a Deathwatch Watchmaster, and every time I'm chatting to a friend of mine about, he's like, you want to be careful, because if you do any more if you do like any Deathwatch tutorials, which I will be doing because of the Deathwatch releases, hashtag YouTube.
There were 2 name drops in there, one for yourself and one for Beard. Point out to people.
I mean, it's okay when I do it though, right?
Just to clarify, Warhipster has actually spoken to them and met them. The problem with Gripster is Gripster will talk about Bone like he's his best mate.
Well, they bumped into each other that one time, you know? Yeah. So clearly a lifelong friendship was formed. Anyway, yes.
We're going to get complaints now
from him, and they're not really worth much. Anyway, we've now got an open Deathwatch book. I'm just going to a little bit of the sound effect there for you. So let's dive in, shall we? That's the same first page as everybody else. Right, so we're looking.
I think you've kind of fucked up already there, Josh. So what is the smell like?
Yeah. Does it smell like Alien?
It smells like righteousness.
Oh,
that's what it smells like.
Righteous racist.
Righteous fury.
So we're now I'm just generating some sound effects for you people at home. I'm opening and closing the book, making a little clap.
Yeah, just clarify what that noise is, because it could be construed as something else. Josh has got really excited about this book, and he's just going for it.
I'm opening it with an appendage. There we go. We're opening the book. This is so exciting. Anyway, let's look at it. Right. We've got all the usual stuff in here, as per usual. That makes sense, right? We've got a table of contents. We've got 64 pages, so this is a pretty light supplement. But you would expect that because of the word supplement. So you actually, for those who don't know, this Deathwatch Codex is no longer a codex. They are now a supplement of Space Marines. So that means a lot of things. It means, one, any Deathwatch fans out there who don't already know or haven't already got the book, or anyone wanting to start a Deathwatch army and worried about the limitations that you have, you no longer have any limitations whatsoever other than 5 things. I haven't got the Space Marine book to hand, so I won't be able to tell you exactly what those are. But and I'm pretty sure it details it in that book. It won't detail it in this one. I'm pretty certain. I don't know. This is the first time I've opened it genuinely, as you all heard me take the cellophane off. So Right, we're looking at it. Table of contents, as I say, we've got 64 pages. We have got 21 pages worth of lore, which is great. Showcase.
You summarised that in like 5 minutes, mate. They need to cut that down.
Well, we could read it from. We could read it all if you want. So we could say, "Welcome to your vigil, brother." Within this supplement,
what they don't get, just out of interest.
Yeah, go on. Tell us what we don't get.
So you don't get assault squads, attack bike squad, devastator squad, stone guard, veteran squads, or tactical squads or scout units. But then I guess that all comes because you get kill teams, which we'll go through later what they mean.
We will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually, let's cover that now. I think because that's very core to the kind of the Deathwatch structure.
Should we skip right ahead to the kill teams?
Yeah. So, or just let's have a quick explanation of what they are. So, I mean, Rich, do you want to cover that?
Well, I'll try, and then you lot can save me. So, my understanding of kill teams, they are kind of the replacement of what would be a tactical devastator or assault squad. So they're kind of made with a purpose in mind, but they take the specialities of different kind of units like intercessors, and they're kind of made into a kill team. The name of those kill teams I won't be able to tell you. Someone will save me, but that's kind of they kind of have a purpose, and they're kind of broken down a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's it. So I'm really testing the limits of my memory here because it was back at the end of 7th that I started my Deathwatch army a long time ago. If I remember correctly, you used to have kill teams were basically designed to do a specific role, and it was aligned to the objective at hand. So to be clear, in a kind of narrative sense, you wouldn't have a Deathwatch army per se. You wouldn't see very often. It's very, very rare that you would have more than a couple of kill teams operating on something. So that gets a little bit tricky when you start doing it on the tabletop because people want to play as pure Deathwatch, right? But what you'd have like a kill team Mortis. I think I can't remember the names exactly. It's ages ago now, and that kill team is designed for killing HQ units. And so it could take it depended on their mission tactic, and you could gear it out whatever way you wanted. But you'd probably, if you were playing it super fluffily, you'd gear it for killing HQs. So you'd want to take things like the I can't remember the name of the sword. It's probably in this book that I've got right in front of me. One moment, callers.
It's almost like a Spec Ops Space Marine team, right? So you'd gear them out completely to do a certain mission.
They don't have it in here. What? Is there another page? Xenophase Blade. There you go. So a Xenophase Blade might be something that you would take because you are giving it to your Watch Sergeant, and your Watch Sergeant, as the leader of that kill team, is really good at killing characters because the Xenophase Blade used to ignore invulnerable saves or something like that. Don't know if it still does. We'll find out. Anyway, yeah. So that's Rich is basically right for kill teams. But yeah, kill teams form.
Well done, Rich.
They form the bread and butter of what a Deathwatch army is. They are I believe. Let's just check just to make sure that it's still true. Death kill team. Where are you? Creating kill teams. Watchmaster, Watch Captain Artemis, Codicea Natorian. No, he's an actual character now. Chaplain Cassius. Deathwatch veterans. Yeah. So Deathwatch veterans are your troops. They are a component of a kill team because everything in the Deathwatch army is a veteran. So you don't have tactical marines. They are all veterans.
And so I think the change, not change, but addition to this new book is now we have 2 additional kill teams, and the Primaris one has split ever so slightly. So the way the kill teams are divided up now is essentially by armor. So we have the kind of tactical squad kill teams, veterans, and then we have kind of the basic intercessor armor squads. We have the Phobos armor squads, and we have the Gravis armor squads. And anyone who shares that armor can fit into the same kill team, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, it is, and it's also a bit annoying.
Yeah, it can also make for some really weird combinations I can imagine on a tabletop. Having an intercessor squad in a squad with an outrider.
Yeah, so you've always been able to put a biker in a kill team, and the reason that you would pick other things is because it gives the whole squad an ability. thus further kitting out your kill team to do the thing that you want it to do. And of course, you can also combat squad and all that kind of stuff. So you could, for example, take one kill team, which is 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 bikers, combat squad it, and now you've got 2 units, one of veterans and one of bikers. You could do that, but the thing that's slightly annoying about it is that. Well, okay, so yeah, let's go off with that then. So you've got the Proteus kill team, which is the original one that anybody who's ever had Deathwatch over the last 4 or 5 years since they've been a thing is familiar with. So it's power armored Space Marines. This is Primaris. This is Firstborn Marines. So a Proteus kill team is made up of Deathwatch veterans, Deathwatch Terminators, veteran bikers, or Vanguard veterans. You don't get Stern Guard veterans because you don't get them in the book full stop, and you don't get them in the army full stop. But you don't need them because your basic Space Marine is already a Stern Guard veteran. He is a veteran of 1,000 campaigns, 1,000 campaigns. So that's the one everyone's familiar with. And then you have the next one, which is the Fortis kill team. And now this is where, for me, it gets a little bit weird reading this for the first time. So the Fortis kill team, you could only have, by the looks of it, Mark 10. Yeah. So it's Intercessor, Assault Intercessor, Outrider, or Hellblaster. Which is a bit annoying because it doesn't mirror the Proteus. Because in a Proteus kill team, you could take 5 Deathwatch veterans, you can lump a Terminator in there, you can put a Vanguard veteran in there, you can put a biker in there. In here, you cannot put an aggressor. You cannot put a Gravis armored Space Marine in a Fortis kill team, which is a bit frustrating from my point of view.
I think we should say you used to be able to do that in 8th edition.
Yeah, you did. But all is not lost because you then have the Indomitor, or Indomitor, however we're going to say that, Indomitor kill team, and this is the Gravis variant of Mark 10. So this is where you'll just end up with just Gravis Marines in one kill team. And the choices are from that: 1 Heavy Intercessor, 1 Aggressor, 1 Inceptor, and 1 Eradicator. So you can put all of your Gravis in one group, which I kind of get. I mean, I sort of get not mixing the Indomitor kill team and the...
Well, what happened was that there were a series of complaints by biker Deathwatch complainers who did complain to management about they spent a lot of time waiting for the Gravis Marines to kind of catch up. And it took 4 years, but eventually the complaint got raised and HR were called.
But doesn't it just like, picture this in your mind, if you will. Like, you have this unit of 5 Heavy Intercessors marching forward, like, implacable, laying down endless volleys of fire, and the Outriders dance around them, intercepting the biggest rockets, or cutting down stragglers, or this, that, and the other. And that is the kill team. That is how they operate, almost like a hammer with a really small, kind of almost like a whirlwind around it. That's amazing. That's a really cool thing. And yes, it's annoying when you have something that can move 5 inches and something that can move 10 inches because you've got a whole lot of movement to work with there. But it's not really the end of the world because you can move them from, you can put your 5 at the front and then your Outriders behind them as long as you're within coherency, and you can still move them. You can still get that amount of movement. You can repurpose them and redistribute them as and where you need to. And obviously there's the added benefit, but I'm guessing, without knowing or looking at it just yet, that like with the Proteus kill team, it always used to be that each thing, as I say, added an ability. So in 7th edition, it would be things like if you had a Vanguard veteran, you got like Furious Charge.
That's gone. That's gone, I believe.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll find that out. But yes, you're probably right. Instead, it's now just taking it back down.
Which is the problem is a tough word because Deathwatch players is very, very exciting. But first thing that's going to jump out, I think, at most of us, because that de-incentivizes you massively. And I do agree with you, Josh, in terms of what I think of kill teams being very cool is when you have this kind of mix of really cool stuff. And now I don't see why Deathwatch players aren't going to take 5 Outriders that are OBSEC.
Exactly.
And just combat squad them.
I take 5, and then
and it is a very interesting decision, because another kind of thing that they've ignored there is that it looks very deliberate from GW to limit Outriders to squads of 3 for Space Marines, because they're such an incredible unit. They're so good on the table that they've done that, and then they've gone, oh no, except you guys, yours are OBSEC. And you can take them in blobs of 5. So Outriders are loving this, and there's a couple of other options, I think, as we look at the other. In fact, we just have done so. For example, with Eradicators, you've now got Eradicators, which are OBSEC, but also they have 15 ablative wounds. So your Eradicator squads, which not weakness, but at least when you play Eradicators, normally you can shoot them. Now you have to kill through 5 heavy ancestors, which is a lot. So that's a lot to kill. So that's going to be tough.
Yeah. Lastly, we have the stress kill team.
Yeah.
Which is cool. This is, I think, just reading that whilst you were talking, so I apologize, I wasn't really listening. Something about Outriders and Eradicators being broken more so than they already were.
It's all right. I was all crap anyway. We'll cut.
Yeah, no. So Spectre's kill team, this for me is like embodies what a kill team can be. This is infiltrators, incursors, reavers, and eliminators.
Yeah, I do want to take 5 eliminators. I'm not going to
lie. Which is cool, right?
Well, I mean, you sit them there with a Helix Adept from the, is it the infiltrators that have the Helix Adept, the guy that heals stuff, and then it's like, oh, my unkillable snipers will just take pot shots at you for the whole game.
Well, I don't know what the Helix Adept does now, but he just heals a wound, doesn't he? He can't bring anyone back.
Yeah, you're probably right. Actually, they probably weakened him a little bit.
Probably to mitigate for this nonsense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really cool. Yeah. Oh, the Reavers are in there as well. Okay. Well,
because they're Phobos, so that is the Phobos squad, I guess, as it were.
And I suppose
Reavers.
I was just about to complain that meant there was no combat option in the Fortis, but of course there is the Assault Intercessor.
Yeah.
You're going to hear highs and lows from me when I'm reading this book, because this is cool and also annoying.
It's funny to me because I assumed the intention was to encourage people to take squads where you have a bit of everything to kind of get that kind of real narrative feel and intrigue. But unless I'm missing something, I don't think you have that incentive to take bits of everything.
Not really, by the looks of things. Well, I mean,
maybe it's the design, mate. I don't know, but I just assumed it was.
Well, you can take, as you can see, you can take mixtures within the armor group. So it's still cool to take 5 heavy intercessors with 2 aggressors, 2 eradicators, and a inceptor if you wanted to.
So just to jump back, that the Helix Adept, what it actually allows you to do now is ignore if you take a wound, the first wound in that sort of turn of shooting, you just treat as having damage 0, which is actually really, like, when you think about the fact, eliminators can sort of sit and cover quite nicely. That's pretty bloody good.
Yeah, it's nice. That is really nice. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's kill teams. That's the main change. There's more here to read. The following changes apply to 3 abilities apply. The Omni Scrambler's ability only applies while there are any infiltrators or infiltrator sergeants in this unit. Well, that makes sense. If they all die, then you can't have the Omni Scramblers. The Multi-Spectrum Array applies only to incursors in this unit. So if they all die, you lose that. But this is where the flavor is, right? And this is what is expected. I think this is exactly the same way as it was before in 8th edition. I can't remember.
That is some stuff that you gain.
But you gain the ability of the guy. Whereas again, at the end of 7th, you gained an ability for everyone. So if you took, as I said, if you took a biker, everyone got Hammer of Wrath, which was a bit mental. But yeah, it was really cool. So it's quite interesting in that you could effectively give Omni Scramblers to the Eliminators as well, so nothing can come down within 12 inches of them. If Omni Scramblers haven't changed, have they?
No, that's still the same.
Yeah, there you go. So that's even better for Eliminators. But it encourages you to take them as the full kill team, right? But you should be building your kill teams narratively, because you can build Deathwatch really competitively. You've always been able to do it, but it's always been more of a it's been a difficult army to use competitively as kind of
to be fair,
well, just as kind of like an army that has an answer for everything, because it never did. One of its big weaknesses was anti-tank. You never really had very much of that. You had the Corvus Black Star and the Dreadnought, and that was it.
Yeah, because this is also their first official kind of access to a lot of the newer stuff. So they didn't get the Phobos stuff when it first came out.
They did not.
And I think you touched on a really interesting point for people listening that think about starting Deathwatch as to why they're a great army to collect, because they are both an army, exactly as you say, Josh. You can make incredibly competitive, but also you can make a really fluffy army that's not very oppressive and just very cool. So if you took, for example, one of each kill team, I don't think there's a person here that wouldn't want to play that army. That's just very cool, because lots of armies kind of push you quite hard towards competitive side if they're competitive. But Deathwatch, I think, are a great armies, and they can get you to do both.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Well, this is what I think. That's a great thing to. I've literally just turned to the page of datasheets abilities. Because what makes Deathwatch unique, and you mentioned not being able to make, if you didn't want to make them as oppressive, well, the oppressive combination for a short time in 8th edition was special issue ammunition in Stormbolters, and then those Stormbolters having bolter discipline, which was a problem. Because there you have always had. So, especially, what is special issue ammunition? Well, I hear you ask. Special issue ammunition is one of the really cool ideas behind a Deathwatch mechanic. So, it's the idea that a Deathwatch veteran brings along various different types of ammunition for his bolter, dependent on what he is faced with. And there was always the 4. There was Dragonfire bolts, there was Hellfire rounds, there was Kraken bolts, and there was Vengeance rounds. And each one gave you a benefit. And it was the Hellfire ones that were a problem, because for a long time, they have always been a poison round. And so, like, in 7th edition, poison meant that it always wounded on an amount. And then in 8th edition, it also always wounded on an amount. So if you ever played Dark Eldar, they use a hell of a lot of poison in their splinter weapons, and that's why it always says when firing at an infantry or character, or basically when firing at a model, excluding vehicle and Titanic, this weapon always wounds on a 4+. In Deathwatch Hellfire rounds, it was 2+, because our poison's better than yours, which is a bit gross. And so when you combine that with, this is only just a small little window of opportunity because they immediately FAQ'd it. But Bolt Discipline, when you had 10 Stormbolters on 10 veterans that stood still at 24-inch range, firing Hellfire rounds, they were firing 40 rounds that hit on 3s and wounded on 2s. And so when you put when you find a source of re-rolling to hit and re-rolling 1s to wound, that's awful, right? And that was the source. That was the real source. But special issue ammunition has changed. Reading it now, live. Special issue ammunition. Each time a unit is selected to shoot, if it contains any models that are equipped with a weapon with this ability, then before you select any targets, each weapon with this ability can fire special issue ammunition. If any do, select one of the ammunition types below for that weapon until the end of the phase. Each time that weapon is fired, apply the modifiers and abilities associated with that special issue ammunition. And these have all changed. So Dragonfire bolts, each time an attack is made with a weapon firing the special issue ammunition, the target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack, which is really strong. Hellfire rounds is completely different. Each time an attack is made with a weapon firing the special issue ammunition against a unit that does not have the vehicle or Titanic keyword, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. And that is much, much more palatable for, I think, everybody in the world. Because this is an early codex supplement, right? So everyone's going to be buying it. And there's lots of people who are digging out Deathwatch armies going, ooh, where's the spice? And there is, I'm sure, spice in here. We've not read the whole thing, but the days of endless Stormbolters is over, as I'm pretty certain that Stormbolters don't carry special issue ammunition, which is, depending on where you fall on the side of it. If you're like me and you're saying, well, why would a Deathwatch veteran take a Stormbolter and like not bring a special issue ammunition. The same stuff goes in the same gun, but whatever. Kraken bolts. Each time an attack is made with a weapon firing this special issue ammunition, adds 6 inches to the range characteristic and improves the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. This is cumulative with the armor penetration bonus conferred by the Combat Doctrine's ability. So you can get an extra minus when you're in the Tactical Doctrine, which is lovely.
Spicy.
We need to cut that and use that as a sound effect.
Well, every time something's good.
From now on, what is it? You've got spicy, and you've got name drop, and you've got shut up, Quipster.
This one's going to start off with miniature soldiers. Spicy opinions.
I should have done that from the start. Can we find what's so what's it? Just I know we're going through the special issue ammunition. Just can we have something that you think is
say that 5 times fast?
Yeah, I know. Can we have something that you think is rubbish? I mean, we can go for the Stormbolt thing because I just want to get another sound effect and just go.
That's well good, mate. Yeah.
Well, we've got it now. I don't need to find. Okay, hang on. We'll let the listeners forget you did that, and then we'll do it.
Hang on, I'll do it. There's still no Primaris Watchmaster. Nice.
Perfect. We've got it captured. Last bit of special issue ammunition. Vengeance rounds. Each time an attack is made with a weapon firing this special issue ammunition, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that attack, which is very good.
Yeah, that's the winner, isn't it?
Yes. However, spicy.
Not
that's a
Leman
spicy
that one.
meatball.
But they're all good, and they all have their uses, which is super great.
Now, I believe
I've just got an image of like each of the rounds having like their own little like Nando's chili.
Yeah, no, they should. Or just like a little Xenos skull next to it in here, but they don't. Special issue ammunition has been dropped by a lot of things. So I'm just checking around for it. Yeah. Hang on. Deathwatch Veterans, Kill Team Cassius, Deathwatch Terminator Squad. Yeah, it looks like it. Let's just look in the back. And it says Deathwatch equipment, up to 2 items can be selected from the following list. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone can take 2 items. But you've got, and this is key, Deathwatch Bolt Gun, Deathwatch Combi Flamer, Deathwatch Combi Grav, Deathwatch Combi Melter, Deathwatch Combi Plasma. That is the distinction between a normal Bolt Gun, Combi Flamer, Combi Grav, Combi Melter, Combi Plasma. You've also got here Stormbolter. So that indicates that because it's not called a Deathwatch Stormbolter, it does not have special issue ammunition. And then when you look at the ranged weapons, for example, well, it says that it's all got stars after it. See Codex Space Marines, and special issue ammunition is in Codex Space Marines. So all of that stuff does not have special issue ammunition. So it's only bolt guns and not bolters. So bolt rifles, nope. Sorry, you can't have it.
That does give you an incentive to mix it up, maybe take a different kind of squads.
Oh, well, this is interesting, actually. The Stalker Pattern Bolt Gun says special issue ammunition on it. So maybe a Stalker Bolt, right? A Stalker Bolt Pattern Bolt Gun can take it. But, and this is a thing, it's annoying if you're playing veteran kill teams. It is completely understandable if you are taking Deathwatch Centurions, which you can now do because you now get Codex Codex Space Marines, and that means you get a whole host of extra stuff. And so, if you could put special issue ammunition in Centurions Hurricane Bolters, that gets insane. Which, if you took at the end of 8th edition, and you just went, at the end of 8th edition, they get everything in Codex Space Marines. You would, that's exactly what you would do. You would go, okay, all of my high-firing bolt weapons, they have special issue ammunition. It makes sense. Stalker Pattern Bolt Gun, it does have special issue ammunition. Excellent, because I love Stalker Pattern Bolt Guns, particularly on my Deathwatch veterans. It's like a pseudo-sniper. It's just brilliant. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a bit disappointing, but I completely understand that as a choice.
Cool. Well, I think before moving on to Space Wolves, Rich, is there anything from the book that really stood out to you that you've read about?
I think the only thing we kind of slightly touched on earlier was some of the combinations you can pull off. For example, having access to both the supplement and the Spaceman Codex just means they get unique objectives now, or mission objectives. And one of them is Suffer Not the Alien, which basically means you get a victory point every time you kill a Xenos unit.
Yes, which means when you play Tau, you get 30 points.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you play any.
You'll take attrition, and you'll take that, and you've got 30 points.
Yeah, you play any Xenos army because.
And then you take one of the secondary, and then you just have to play the primary. That's all you're playing when you play Deathwatch, which is very, very good.
Yeah, it's really good for the Deathwatch player, and I don't know where it fits the game. I mean, if every faction gets something cool like that when their supplement comes out, cool. But the problem I see is a Tau player, for example, will only get one set of special mission objectives. They won't get another supplement within that unless they expand in the book going, if you're this sept, you can have these objectives, which might be cool, but I don't foresee in my opinion,
I will say
doing that.
It is, because I as someone that plays predominantly Xenos factions, doesn't seem too bad. There doesn't seem too many really egregious things in that book that will mean that those games end quite quickly. There is definitely advantages to being Deathwatch when you're playing Xenos, as there should be.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything that will break the game, as it were. I think the only thing we should really touch on, in fact, there's a lot we could touch on, but one thing I did want to mention is they do have, effectively now, a super doctrine kind of equivalent, because their super doctrine, what it is they get to choose how they employ the doctrines, which is potentially incredibly powerful. So as we all know, after the wonderful times of Imperial Fist and Iron Hands players staying in heavy doctrine, Devastator doctrine, for 4 or 5 turns, 5 or 6 turns. Now we have it that you must switch and you must go forward, starting in Devastator, then tactical for 1 or 2, and then assault from either turn 3 or turn 4 onwards. And as Deathwatch, you still have the same. You can still choose the same from the same number. So Devastator once, tactical twice, assault 3
or 4 times. Yeah.
But if you can make a first turn charge, you can start an assault doctrine. If you know your heavy weapons aren't going to get to shoot much turn 1, you can hold that back a turn. There's definitely flexibility there, which is super cool and fluffy, I think.
Yeah, but absolutely. It also fits really well with one of the objectives in the Space Marine book, which you get points for killing stuff in respective doctrines. Which then
that's a great point. Yeah.
So if you're you only get 1 turn of Devastator and your weapons might be in the opportune moment to be in the right line of sight, you could go, I'm going to start an assault doctrine because I get 2 turns of that minimum.
Yeah.
I'm going to do Devastator later when I can get the opportunity to get the points of them. So they've got some really cool options to play around with it, and I do think Deathwatch would be quite a cool army competitively in that regard.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they don't see some good play. Cool. All right, Josh, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we move on to the Vilka Enrique?
Loads.
Okay, let's go.
Loads. I'm reading the book as we chat. I've just found in here Kill Team Specialisms, where you can pay points to give your kill team a specialism.
Yes.
And this is what I was trying to fumble my way through remembering what the names were earlier. But we've got the Aquila kill team, the Dominatus kill team, the Furor kill team, the Malleus kill team, the Purgatus kill team, and the Venator. And those what used to be called mission doctrines or mission tactics, which you would so the idea being is that this Deathwatch force has dropped into a Xenos stronghold, and the objective is to cut off the head because you are fighting orcs. And so narratively, you want to get in there, kill the war boss as quickly as possible. And as such, we are going to load ourselves for bear to kill the war boss in a lightning raid strike. And the way that was reflected on the tabletop was that you had the mission tactic, and you selected the mission tactic, and that meant you got a bonus when fighting against X battlefield role. That exists still on a kill team by kill team basis, but you have to pay points for it. So an example here is Aquila kill teams. Aquila kill teams are equipped to handle varied or unknown horrors with a measured and strategically versatile response. After selecting a battlefield role for the purposes of the Xenos Hunters chapter tactic for your army, see Codex Space Marines, select one additional battlefield role. Until the end of the battle, each time a model in this unit makes an attack against an enemy with either of the selected battlefield roles, re-roll a wound roll of 1. Which is quite strong. You know, that's very good. What is the Xenos Hunters chapter tactic?
In the chapter tactics, each time a model of this tactic makes a melee attack against a Tyranid, Aldari, Orc, Necron, or Tau unit, reroll a hit roll of 1.
Mm-hmm.
After both sides have finished deploying their armies, select one battlefield roll until the end of that battle. Each time a model of this tactic makes an attack against an enemy unit with that battlefield roll, reroll a room roll of 1.
And is that in the fight phase?
Or
is that just generally?
Just makes an attack, so it would be shooting or melee.
That's really strong. That's really cool. And just for like 25 extra points, I mean, Purgatus kill team. Indomitable in heart and mind, Purgatus kill teams specialize in slaying the cunning and horrific leaders of a Xenos host. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack against an enemy unit with a HQ battlefield roll, re-roll a wound roll of 1. If you selected the HQ battlefield roll for your Xenos Hunters chapter tactic, each time a model in this unit makes an attack against an enemy unit with that battlefield roll, you can re-roll the wound roll. So, if you have your Space Marine army and you've got Xenos Hunters, you can say, right, we're going to go after HQ units. So our chapter tactic is re-rolling 1s to wound against HQs. If you selected a Purgatus, if you then paid the 25 points for a Purgatus kill team, you can give that kill team full re-rolls on the wound roll. That's really, for 25 points, that's strong.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really, really solid.
So on those eliminators, so they can target the HQs.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean,
those 15 eliminators.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads to dig into here. The Warlord traits look pretty good.
The psychic powers are actually boss in that book.
Xenopurge Discipline. Give me a number and I'll read one out.
3.
1 to 6.
Yeah, I think it's 3 I'm thinking of.
3.
Neural Void. My favorite bit, we've talked about this before, my favorite bit is all the fluffy bits they put in around this stuff rather than the rule. I love this. The Psyker assails the target with a void black darkness upon their minds, woven from psychomantic shadow. Mental cohesion and coordination begin to break down, orders become garbled, and impetus blunted. Malediction. Neural Void has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of this Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of models in that unit, and each time a charge is declared for that unit, only the closest enemy unit can be selected as the target of that charge.
That's quite cool.
So that's the one I love because it has so much utility. Because against certain things that are quite slow but hit hard, you can really use that. So against things like aggressors, but also you'll notice with the -1 attack, that's not to a minimum. So you can make things, and you can make massive blobs of Necron warriors, I believe, 0 attacks.
Oh yeah,
which is
I'm sure that will be FAQ'd.
You know, you're talking about the fluff around it. The Xeno blade that you mentioned earlier, I can't remember. Was it Xenophase blade?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fluff around the description around that is really cool. Where it's come from.
Is it indeed? Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was, but Beard read out one of his back reps, and it was really cool.
Name drop.
Yeah, name drop. Keep it consistent.
I'm trying to sing nonsensically so you don't lose any of your monetization revenue.
Oh yeah, all the views and money we get from this.
You know, or you can include 10 seconds of audio. So again, do. I cannot find it.
Too much pressure.
Yeah, well, it's a new book. I have no idea. Tools of the Alien Hunter. Everything, because we are the Deathwatch. We get whatever we damn well please. What kill team catches? What's catching Artemis? Xenophage Blade.
Are there any chapters that just refuse to send anyone to the Deathwatch, or is it something that you're like obliged to do?
I don't know.
The Grey Knights don't, I assume.
They almost certainly don't, because nobody really knows that they exist.
Nobody.
Nobody apart from everyone.
Everyone.
The worst kept secret in the Imperium. I cannot find a description of
You say that, mate. The Fallen.
Oh yeah, that is the worst kept secret in the Imperium. Yeah. Everyone knows the Fallen exist. Silly Fallen. No, I'm sorry, I can't find it. I believe I've let you down, Rich. I've let the listeners down, but worst of all, I've let myself down. No, I can't find it. Sorry. I'm just going to assume that it's really cool.
Yeah. You guys
that's some homework for our listeners there. They can go and find
comment on Instagram when we put this up what that weapon does and what the fluff around it, and you get a follow from Quipster. There you go.
That's a big commitment. That is a big commitment. There's also a lot of work for people to get something, I think this book is great. First of all, I am excited to really read that one in depth. I think that's really cool. There's a lot that you can do there, and particularly with combining Codex Space Marines into that, you've got so many tools at your disposal, and literally no weaknesses in the Deathwatch army now. So that's good, isn't it?
I think that's I think that's a pretty spot on summary, really. I think the reason I am so excited about that book, and probably more so than the Spacewatch book, is just because I feel like there's just so much people will do with that. Like even veteran Deathwatch players, just they've got an absolute crap ton of new toys now, and that's just awesome. That's just so cool.
So many new toys. I remember, like at the end, I think it was the beginning of 8th, they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, anything that's in the Forge World range, the Deathwatch can have it." So I was full of like, I can have the Deathwatch Fellblade, which would have been probably slightly pointless, but it's really encouraging now that you get basically, as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, basically the entire range, which is really exciting, as you say. And there's loads of, we know how much potential there is for conversion work on Deathwatch. Now, if you can blend every kit together, I think Deathwatch players shall rejoice. I'm rejoicing. You can hear it in my voice. I'm rejoicing. I rejoice how great this book is. It's wonderful. I mean, yes, there are some things that are annoying about it and slightly frustrating about it, like the special issue ammunition, but I understand the change, I guess. I have to sit with it a bit more, but I get it.
To be fair, a lot of the things that I think we've talked about today that are powerful, and don't take these as famous last words, but a lot of times we see things as great on paper, and then in reality, they're either not that good, or codex creep, or whatever it's going to be means that actually they're fine. So maybe that will be the case with Deathwatch. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it before we started, didn't we? People were, I've heard it already. People sort of talking to me about it, saying Deathwatch is way too powerful when fighting Xenos. Well, duh, they should be. Like they
who you call.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like they are the most. They are right. They're Space Marines, which are the most elite warriors in the galaxy. And then you take the elite of the elite and you turn them into elite Xenos hunters. They should have a lot of power in fighting Xenos. They should suck against something like Chaos. It's not that they can't fight Chaos, but they don't. So, that they'll get they should get absolutely, like, if they'll know what Chaos Space Marines are. Of course they will. Everybody does in the Space Marine Legions, but Space Marine chapters, not the Legions.
But I feel like that does come across in the supplement. Apart from the fact that they're Space Marines, so they're going to be strong anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I also think the offensive power against Xenos factions. So one of the great things about their kind of chapter tactic is that it is kind of that they just become more reliable versus Xenos. So it's just they're always re-rolling ones to hit, not just when they're near a watch captain, and pretty much always you're taking a watch master anyway. So you're going to, again, it's just that a bit more reliability. That's what that is. And a couple, like you're talking about with those points increases, that's a good example there, Josh. Is like you can pay those points to get re-roll wounds, and you maybe should do that. But that means when you play against other factions in tournaments, you've just got wasted points in your army. So it's some of the stratagems are incredibly powerful. I will say that some of the stratagems can just end a game, but they can be tweaked. Well, so for example, a lot of them are to do with how weak the Xenos factions are. I will say that also, but like it's a combination of the two.
I'm trying to find the stratagems page now. I'm really not very good at navigating these books.
So I think just while you load them up, I think so. The Tau one is still the same as it was in 8th edition, which is
so long, marker lights.
Yeah, which is just take away marker lights, which again, actually, I would say this is probably a great example where it's just the Tau book is just quite bad because when you play Tau, if you take a fluffy army, or in fact if you take a competitive army, you will marker light 1 unit a turn.
Wait, wait. They take so the Tau have 2 stratagems which you can use to add marker lights or something, right? And you have one stratagem which can just take away all.
So it's a funny one. So I don't know exactly how it would work now. So in 8th edition, the way it used to work is if you used the stratagem uplink marker lights, that didn't count as you hitting the opponent with a marker light. So you actually couldn't use it after uplink marker lights. So there was a little bit of leeway there, but I don't know how that rules interaction comes about now. But essentially, if you, as Tau, you're not going to be able to marker light probably a single Deathwatch unit now between the poor rules writing of marker lights.
I'm just trying to find it now. Tau Empire. There it is. Targeting scramblers. Use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase. After a Tau Empire unit has resolved its shooting attacks against a Deathwatch unit from your army, remove all marker light counters from that Deathwatch unit.
Yeah. Which is really good. I believe the Orc one is also incredibly powerful.
Stem the Green Tide. Use the stratagem in the charge phase after an enemy Orc unit has declared a charge against 1 or more Deathwatch units from your army. The Deathwatch units that were selected as a target of that charge can fire Overwatch at that Orc unit. Until the end of the phase, if any models from that Orc unit are destroyed as a result of Overwatch, subtract 2 from charge rolls made for that unit.
Yeah, so that means that if you did jump,
that's really strong.
Yeah, so that means as anyone that's played Orc players will know, to jump is pretty important power for Orc players, and now they'd have to make an 11-inch charge with that, which is
it's re-rollable.
Against Genestealer Cult, they're going to be absolutely just savage because Auspex Scan is already just deletes Genestealer Cult units, and against Tyranids. They do get a benefit, don't they? They can target.
I'm just trying to find it. Oh, there we go. Synaptic Severance. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase when a Deathwatch unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack against a Tyranid Synapse unit, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target.
Yeah. What is there one for Genestealer Cult there specifically?
I would guess not. Because they have a Tyranid keyword, don't they?
Yeah, they do, but they don't have any synapse.
Oh, well, there's Death to the Alien. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Deathwatch unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase while that unit is within engagement range of any Tyranids, Eldari, Orc, Necrons, or Tau Empire units. Add 1 to the attack's characteristics of
That's so unit. Good. That's ridiculous. How many CP was that? Still got 1 CP.
It's 1 CP.
Oh god, imagine that on some like assault intercessors
that's so good.
Or worse, Vanguard veterans with
dual lightning claws.
That is quite strong. I'll give you that. And then the Necron
on the charge in the combat doctrine.
Yeah. I believe the Necron one is it -1 from reanimation?
Your opponent must subtract 1. Yeah, 1 CP. Your opponent must subtract 1.
So I suspect some of those stratagems are a bit expensive. Now my point of view, okay, and this is an opinion thing. So I totally get what Josh says about how they should be better against Xenos, and I think they should be. But when it comes to stratagems, GW, please point to them for how good the stratagems are, not how often they come up.
My favorite is this one, and this will be the last stratagem. And it's I think there's potential here for it to be really, really, really broken. Shroud Field.
Is that the one for the Corvus?
It is the one for the Corvus. Use the stratagem at the start of your first battle round. Select one Corvus Blackstar unit from your army. Until the end of the battle round, that unit cannot be selected as a target for ranged attacks until it is the closest eligible target to the firing model.
Yeah. I am happy about that because Corvus Blackstars obviously have had a pretty rough time for it.
Good.
Yeah.
But what can a Corvus Blackstar do though?
Well,
so the transport, they're a plane. They're the Deathwatch specific plane.
But they have got a bit of a brutal gun, right? That does. Is that mortal wounds? That it does.
They used to have something. It used to be a really good plane. Then it got a bit crap, and then it got really good again. The Corvus Blackstar. It has. So this model can have their twin assault. So it can have a twin assault cannon or a twin las cannon. It can have two. So it has two Blackstar rocket launchers. It can replace those with Storm Strike missile launchers. It can be equipped with one Hurricane bolter, and this model can be equipped with one Infernum Halo launcher or one Auspex array. What do those things do? I hear you ask. Well, an Auspex array. Each time the bearer makes a ranged attack, the target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack.
That's pretty good.
Which is strong. Infernum Halo Launcher. Each time a ranged attack made by an aircraft model is allocated to the bearer, add 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. So it's meant for dogfights, basically.
It's quite cool.
The Blackstar Rocket Launcher, on the other hand, is it's a heavy 2d3 30-inch range rocket launcher, strength 5, AP -1, damage 1, blast. And everyone knows what a Storm Strike missile launcher does. Heavy 1, 8, -3, 3. It does also have the Blackstar Cluster Launcher, which I think is what you're thinking of, Rich. In your movement phase, after this model has made a normal move or advanced, you can select one enemy unit this model moved across as part of that move. If you do, roll 1d6 for each model in that enemy unit, up to a maximum of 10, and that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound for each result of a 6. Cool. And that it can do that every turn. It's not just a one-time bombing run. It can do that every turn, which is strong for it. That's great for a bomber.
And then what kind of things can it transport as well?
It can transport anything apart from Primaris, and it can transport up to 12 of them.
So it can bring Terminators?
It can bring Terminators. And
so you're guaranteeing a delivery system for... Well, I guess you could teleport them in. But...
Do Terminators count as 2, though? Is it one of those type deals?
Do you know what's even funnier? It can transport bikers.
Okay.
It has always been able to do that, and that is it's why it's brilliant.
The picture is ramping out the back.
That is very cool. Yeah.
But so you can put 3, 6, 9, 12. You can put 4 bikes in there, or what you could do is no, you can't. Well, if it was a Primaris-sized one, you could put a unit of Outriders and a chaplain on bike. But so you could do 3 bikes and a captain with jump pack or something. You can do it. So yeah, it's always been really cool, and that's to accommodate different types of kill teams. But yeah, that's my favorite thing about the Corvus Blackstars. You can put bikes in it, and I love the idea of a bike just driving off the back ramp whilst the plane is in flight, not landing or touching down in any way, shape, or form to let the bike out. No, just like, off you go, lads.
Yeah,
the stress on the suspension of a bike, no matter what it was made of, that will explode the tires and cripple the chassis. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, in conclusion, we've talked a lot about the book, and I know we want to talk about the other really good book here, the Spacewalls. But I say it's really good. I've not even opened it yet.
The artwork.
The artwork's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, let's move on then to the Spacewolves.
Woo!
Okay, so Josh, if you want to go ahead and open the Spacewolves book.
Alrighty. I've got my Blade of Reckoning here.
But this is for the Spacewolves, so it needs to be called like the Wolf Blade of Wolfdom or something.
Or the Executioner's Penknife.
Did he spend the CP to make it a wolf blade?
This is a mastercrafted Victorinox. Other brands are available. Penknife.
Aren't they frost knives?
Yeah, the famous frost corkscrew and frost screwdriver of Fenris.
Can you imagine that? What would be the 40k equivalent of Swiss Army? Because we say Swiss Army knife, Swiss Army clock.
I'm
Swiss
thinking
Army watch,
Militarum
kind of stuff.
or something like that.
Do you reckon?
Militarum? Yeah, that's where my mind went.
I thought apothecary with all their little things on that gauntlet.
There's probably a regiment somewhere. There's probably like an Astra Militarum regiment that's like the Swiss but in space. Like they're good on mountains and with multi-tool knives and things.
And cheese.
and cheese and cookie clocks and various other national stereotypes which we could continue to harp on. Excellent bankers. I don't know.
Well, on that note, the Space Wolves book is now open. Do you ever I hope everybody else has this thing of when you get a new codex, you just kind of don't really want to open it, or you want to kind of read it sort of peering around the corner because you don't want to bend the spine, and then by the end of your first game, you've absolutely fucked it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I
I'm
don't.
terrible. I'm absolutely terrible. They
I'm the
always
person that folds the pages on a new book, and then I get people get annoyed at me when I lend the book to them.
Oh, this is such a lovely first.
Wait, you fold the pages on other people's books?
No, not other people's. My book.
No, that would be bad.
I'm never letting Rich look at one of my books ever again.
Change your surname because you are Dick Move.
Big Dick Move.
Josh, that was a metaphor as well.
I'm literally all I've done is I've opened the Space Wolves book to the first page, and the intro on it is absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to show it to the guys on camera. So you got that, and then the text there says Space Wolves, akin to the dark wrath of a winter's storm and the swift fury of a crackling firebolt is their temper. On wings of flame do they sweep from wide skies in chariots of adamant. Their laughter is the roar of the sea, their silent tread the falling of snow, and their icy gaze the death of men. So will the wolves of Fenris stalk between the stars until the end, until the wolf time.
Ooh. Nice.
Does that not make you want to just start writing your own saga? Jesus.
That's so incredibly cool, and definitely one of the most interesting parts of 40k Space Wolves lore is the idea of the wolf time. Does anybody want to fill our listeners in, and Boris Johnson, if he's listening, on what the wolf time is?
Is it a dance move?
So the wolf time, listeners, is the time when Leman Russ will return. So Leman Russ very famously had a Last Supper, again with the Jesus metaphors, and then left. And Bjorn the Fell-Handed, who is now interned in a dreadnought, was there at that supper. And every year on Fenris or whatever, he retells the story of how Leman Russ left. And he prophesies to return for the wolf time when the galaxy needs him most, type deal. That sounds very familiar I assume to a lot of you, because that is very similar to what most of the Primarchs have, that they are set to return at a very specific time.
I mean, the wolf time is also the Fenrisian way of basically saying the end of days, which is, the last battle. So it's like when the Lion is rumored to return is when during the final battle, and so is Korax, and so will Jagati Khan.
Surprised they just didn't call it Ragnarok.
Yeah, one might call it Ragnarok.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I just picked up the Deathwatch book to see if the intro that they had in their book was as cool, because I believe you guys rushed me to the introduction earlier on.
We only gave you a measly hour.
Yeah. What is that? Yeah, I know. I know I can paint a whole model in an hour, but read a whole book, Christ. But the final word on the Deathwatch one is they are the shields that slays, which is just sums them up better than actually I ever did.
Slay, Queen. Slay.
The shield that slays. Right, Space Wolves book. Here we go. Let's actually concentrate on what we are now supposed to be focusing on. So once again, it is a light book. like with the Deathwatch one, because it is now a supplement, so it's not a full-blown codex. However, this one is quite close to being a full-blown codex because Spacewolves have an enormous amount of data sheets. So, they don't have things like tactical marines. Instead, they have, what they called
Blood claws.
No, blood claws are the young ones, the younglings.
Greyhound.
Something like that. But yeah, so there's lots of they have lots of kind of different names for things. Like you've got long fangs and you've got sky talons or whatever they're called, and they are just, I think it details those in Codex Space Marines, saying this is what they're actually called in the Space Marines one. But there is 61 to pages 84. Yeah, so there is 23 pages of data sheets in here. So it's not far away from being a full codex. This one is a little bit bigger than the Deathwatch one. It's 88 pages long, as opposed to the Deathwatch one being a paltry 64. So you're getting 24 pages more for your money, listeners. Yeah. Once again, you've got all the usual stuff.
Value.
You've got the lore. You've got the pictures. It's the Sons of Rus, Sagas of the Sky Warriors, Deeds of Myth. Oh, I really cannot wait to read this. I'd love to watch this book as well. Oh, that's awesome. It's got all of the names of the great companies in it. It usually does, but sometimes I often find with these supplements, you've no idea what extra narrative is going to be added and what kind of pre-established narrative is going to just disappear. So like in Codex Space Marines, the detailed breakdown of what a company looks like is very different in the most recent codex than it has been in previous ones. It kind of just says it says a company has a battle line company has a battle company has 6 battle line, 2 close support, and 2 fire support. And then at the bottom, there's an appendix that just lists what each of those things are that fit into that, which is a bit of a shame because previous ones, you get this full detailed breakdown. But it's good to see the full list of the great companies in here. Mine will be, of course, the Black Mains. For those of you who do follow me on YouTube, you can see my Ragnar Black Main tutorial. And also, I believe I said this earlier about doing the Combat Patrol tutorial for Deathwatch, but I'll be doing the same thing for the Space Wolves as well. So there'll be a lot of Space Wolves tutorials coming your way very soon at www.youtube.com/Warhipster.
This plug was brought to you by Warhipster on www.youtube.com/Warhipster.
On the next episode of the Warhipster podcast, you can expect to hear about his other works.
Yeah, you wait till we get the Blood Angels one, because.
That's why we did Blood Angels, to get it out of your system, Josh. That was
we do need to do a BBC style. Other painting channels are available, but they're all crap.
Thank you very much. That was I can't say that, but you absolutely can. We've got a full breakdown of each of the different great companies because Space Wolves are different. The great companies of the Space Wolves are not permanently fixed, like a Space Marine chapter per se. So there's kind of no limit on the size of the Space Wolves because each great company can pretty much be chapter sized.
For you personally, what was it about the Black Mains that kind of drew you to them?
Their color scheme. And also Ragnar. Ragnar is an absolute lad. He kind of it's between him and Logan Grimnar, but
I feel like they're sitting on Logan a lot at the moment. I mean, obviously he does have he has 2 very good models, but Ragnar is obviously not that Ragnar isn't very important, but he's taken the forefront of the Space Wolves kind of recently from GW. So I think, like with Dante, we're set up for one day, maybe not soon, but in the next few years, an incredible Logan release.
Sorry, I just got completely lost in reading this. Yeah. Each great company is near autonomous. They do not conform to the structures laid out in the Codex Astartes, and charges have often been levied from a safe distance, but the Space Wolves maintain far more warriors than its dictates allow. Each is commanded by a Wolf Lord, equivalent to the captains of other chapters. He rules a brotherhood of eager warriors fueled by battle lust, and his resources give him the capacity to hunt down and kill any prey. In the Wolf Lord's lair within the Fang are stores of powerful war gear and master-crafted weapons. He commands a fleet of warships to sail the Sea of Stars, as well as powerful war engines such as battle tanks, anti-grav vehicles, and bulky war suits, some of which are centuries or even millennia old. Their machine spirits as aggressive and savage as ever. So, yeah, I mean, basically you have one captain that could potentially have over 1,000 Space Wolves. And it's because they don't really have successor chapters. Because their gene seed is so unstable, you can't really recruit from anywhere other than Fenris. Which is one of the
interesting you talk about. I don't know if you can find that page, but I think that is discussed in that book, because and I remember Adam, you talking about it the other day. Very recently, they didn't have any. Obviously, as we know, Belisarius Cool answers to one man, but even not that much to that one man. Was it?
Yeah, they've introduced. I think they're called the Wolf Spear. They look very cool. I know. To do another name drop, but just to say, I know Chapter Master Valrak, the Primarch Obsessive himself, over on YouTube. He did a big thing the other day about how much he likes this color scheme for this alternative successor chapter. Who, as I say, I think they're called the Wolf Spear. I'm sure Josh will confirm or deny that very shortly if they're in the Space Wolf supplement. But yeah, they're confirmed as a sort of Primaris successor chapter that was set up by Call and Gilliman for the Wolves, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and this is a huge blow, as it were, to Magnus the Red. So for those of you who aren't familiar, as Josh kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, the Space Wolves are involved with the burning of Prospero, and Magnus the Red, for that reason, hates the Space Wolves, and he actually attacked Fenris and very nearly destroyed the Space Wolves, and he did it with the aim of stopping the Space Wolves from ever being able to continue their line or have successor chapters. And now, as Adam has said, that he's officially been defeated in that aim, which is going to do nothing but enrage the demon Primarch of Zeech.
I actually think in I think it might be the Dark Imperium book, but they talk about when they were splitting up the unnumbered? What is it? Well, the
Grey Shields.
Grey Shields, yeah. When they're splitting them up, they actually took some of the Space Wolves lineage and made a success chapter. I can't remember what it was called, but they actually talk about it in the book and how that particular Marine was disappointed that he didn't get to go be with the Space Wolves. He was starting another successor chapter.
Yeah, I mean there are some Space Wolf successors. There aren't as many. I think there was always one, and I can't remember what they're called. But even so, they recruit from one of the other worlds in the Fenris system. So that it's just one of those things. I think they recruited from the moon that Magnus obliterated. So they don't have a home anymore. And lots of people died on Fenris anyway. So they turned the whole northern hemisphere or something into a lava.
Yes.
Hellfire.
Yeah, and if you are looking for Logan Grimnar action scenes, that is definitely the story you want.
And yet the Fang still stands, which is freaking awesome, because the Fang is so cool. And it comes up in what's it called, Wolfsbane, and they're talking about it, and it's one of the Wolf Lords is basically like, this has been being built for a long time, and I don't know if they'll ever actually finish this. And like Russ kind of wonders if he'll even see the completion of it, just because they're off to go and fight Horus, and he might die. He doesn't. Spoilers. Anyway, yeah. What do you want to look at then? So I've arrived at the rules.
Let's look quickly, if you can get there, to their brand new unit, which is very, very, very exciting. I think
the Hounds of Morkai.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think this is really, really cool, and also sets a really interesting precedent. Because obviously the Blood Angels book, as we know, is coming out pretty soon as time of recording, and there's a Dark Angels book one assumes, and maybe even a Black Templars book. So
There'll be a lot of special Reavers.
Yeah, so there could be special units. So let's have a quick look at them, because I think that they look incredible. Does anybody know? Are they getting their own like sprue, or is it just like an upgrade kit?
I think they are in it. I think they're
box.
Yeah, they're in their own box, but I suspect, and I don't know, but I suspect it's a Reaver sprue with an upgrade kit.
I've got it
downstairs. I don't think they're unique sculpts.
If you want me, you want me to go and open that, if you want me to do a third podcast,
we could do an actual unboxing.
Then we can.
You know what? Let's do GW a massive favor, because they need help from us. So, listeners, if you would like to know, go buy the box.
The Hounds of Mordkai, I've got it. Power level 5.
Yeah.
You can take.
That's the main information.
You can what?
That's the main information we all wanted. The power level.
Yeah, for all those. I actually, do you know what? I'm gonna float something here. I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and he said that of the gaming community, about 70-ish%, having done some surveys of people who do Warhammer, about 70% of the gaming populace plays with power level and narrative gaming, and actually it's only 30% that do the competitive scene. And yet the only thing anyone ever talks about is competitive, because that's the only thing anybody argues about, because narrative, you've nothing to argue about ever.
I can believe that. Yeah. Well, also power level is more important in air quotes than perhaps it was even among nominally competitive players. Like I must admit, I mean, not that I think I'm particularly good at being competitive, but among our group, we never talked about power level that much. But now we've got the Crusade system, which just uses power level. Even people who are, very much sort of, I'm paying 10 points for this piece of war gear and 5 points for that, are, I think, thinking more about power level now. So it is more important than it was.
Yeah.
For competitive.
Yeah, I think it does have a place. I think
also for all
does.
us deep striking.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've got it open. What would you like to know about the Hounds of Mordkai?
So, I mean, fundamentally, they are Reavers, I guess. I'm sure lots of people know if they've seen the announcements from GW. But what are their kind of special rules, Josh? What are they kind of geared towards?
Well, gather round, all ye who listen here.
Gather around the fire.
Gather around the fireplace, and if you don't have a fireplace, gather around the radiator. They are a bog standard Reavers unit. They don't have any extra wounds. They don't have any extra attacks. They don't have better weapon skill. They don't have better ballistic skill. They are, for all intents and purposes, a basic Reavers unit. Until, as Ed points out, you look at their abilities. Their abilities are pretty spicy. So they have Angels of Death, one we're all familiar with. But they also have Hunters Beyond Death. And models in this unit ignore the lookout, sir rule if the target is a psyker. In addition, each time a model in this unit makes an attack against an enemy psyker unit, add 1 to that attack's hit roll and add 1 to the damage characteristic of that attack.
I think it's really, really cool. So another really cool little lore tidbit for people that aren't familiar with kind of the heresy or pre-heresy, I guess we would say, that Leman Russ was never a massive fan of Psykers. He never really liked them. And that is something that is really, really cool that GW is kind of reflecting in modern day Space Wolves.
Hypocritically.
So I think that's really, yes, very, very hypocritically. Josh does point out.
We don't do Psykers. We only do storm magic.
Yeah, exactly. So he has Rune Priests, but they're not Psykers either.
They use their thing. Anyway, that's one ability. So that already makes this unit of Reavers quite spicy. FYI, you cannot take bulk carbine versions of these guys. You have to have heavy bolt pistol. Sorry, special issue bolt pistol. Special issue bolt pistol. So actually, that is different to Reavers, isn't it? Because there is strength 4.
No. Actually, they changed that in the codex to differentiate them from assault intercessors.
Yeah, so these are strength 4, AP -2 damage 1. So in the combat phase, those pistols are -3. And if you're fighting against psychers, if you're fighting against psychers in the combat doctrine, you're -3 and damage 2, and you're hitting on 2s. Anyway, runic totems is another ability they have. This unit can only be selected as the target of an enemy psychic power if it is the closest enemy unit to the model manifesting that psychic power. In addition, each time this unit would lose a wound in the psychic phase, roll 1d6. On a 4+, that wound is not lost. On a 4+, that wound is not lost. Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
So did you say
on a 4+? On a 4+, Rich. On a 4+. That's a 4+ feel no pain against smite. That's obscene.
So a 3, what would happen on the 3?
You would take a wound.
You take a wound.
So it's a 4+.
It is a 4+. just one more time. I'm not sure I've made this point quite clear enough based on the amount of questions I'm getting. It is on a 4+ that wound is not lost.
See,
editing note for Ed when he later edits this. Make sure you cut down the number of 4+ from Josh.
On a 1d6 on a 4+, that wound is not lost. And then finally, because if that wasn't enough, you have Morkai's Howl, which is an aura ability. And while an enemy psychic unit is within 18 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from psychic tests taken for it. While that psychic unit is within 6 inches of this unit, subtract an additional 1 from psychic tests. Sorry, did I say? Hang on, I'm going to mess that up. While an enemy,
you're confusing yourself with
while an enemy psycho unit is within 4+ of this unit, subtract 4+ from psychic test taken for it. While that psycho unit is within 4+ of this unit, While an enemy psycho unit is within 18 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from psychic tests taken for it. While that psycho unit is within 6 inches of this unit, subtract an additional 1 from psychic tests taken for it. And here's where that's spicy. That is not limited. That does not say to a minimum of. It also says that this does not stack. So you could take 3 units of Hounds of Morkai and any psycho that was perhaps within 6 inches of all 3. That would be -6 to their psychic tests.
Can you take 3 units of them?
You can.
I thought you could. I thought they were like special characters.
No, they are just an elite's choice. They're not named either, so you could take multiple of them.
Oh.
So basically, if you're up against an army that you know is going to be running loads of psychers, I mean, I guess they are quite situational still. Like fundamentally, they're slightly better reavers. But if you're up against an army that's going to have loads of psychers, have a bunch of these guys, stick them forward so they are the target for smites and various other things, and 4+. And you're all good.
Yeah. Additionally,
and they're casting a smite on. Well, if you had 3 squads of them, they'd be casting a smite on an 11.
Yeah.
Because they were close. They were close
6 inches. That's like would have to roll an 11.
Within 6.
Which, to be honest, that's what they're all aiming for anyway. But Magnus.
Well, I think a single squad is certainly not a bad choice. For both narrative. Maybe even competitive. Because,
it's got some utility to it.
I mean, the only thing to point out about them is that they can't take grav shoots. As far as I can see.
They've got the
they do have
gun,
the grapnel launcher inbuilt, and the bearer has the outflank ability. When the bearer's unit makes a normal move, advances or fall back, the bearer does not count any vertical distance it moves against the total that it can move this turn. So it can come on from a different table edge, which is.
I've always quite liked the grapnel hook or the Batman gun, as Reza calls it, solely because I just love the idea of that. They've only got one. There's only one model in the unit who's got it, so they all just have to sort of. He's like, right, hang on to me, boys, and then just they all go up as a big group, all sort of holding onto his belt.
Yeah, but so you can. They're still really, even without the grav shoots, that's still really good. I mean, they're pretty cool. I will definitely be adding.
All right, Jeff, let's move on to the sagas, because I think they are something for Space Wolves that is really unique. And like you talked about earlier, definitely one of the cooler parts narratively, and it's really cool to see it reflected in the game in this respect.
So they're not just cool, Adam. They are what?
Spicy.
Thank you very much.
I thought you were going to say Belisarius.
What?
I was like, that's the best Warhammer joke I've ever heard. Or worse, one of the two.
So the sagas are basically an additional thing to a warlord trait. By the looks of it. Well, actually, no, they are the warlord trait. So, and then you effectively give your Space Wolves character a warlord trait. That will give it an ability, and then it'll have a set of criteria with which, within its saga, to improve the warlord trait. So I'll just take the top one because it's pretty good anyway. So the warlord trait, Beast Slayer. This warlord has slain some of the worst creatures that the galaxy has to offer. Such a hero embodies Russ's ferocity and courage. So, whilst this warlord is within engagement range of any enemy, monster, or vehicle units, add 1 to its attack's characteristic. Each time this warlord makes an attack against a monster or vehicle unit, add 1 to that attack's hit roll and wound roll. Now, Beast Slayer is the saga, right? So Beast Slayer, we're giving our guy warlord trait Beast Slayer. His saga is basically a deed to be done in order to improve that. So that's really good for a character that's going to go and hunt some tanks. However, Beast Slayer, deed of the Beast Slayer, an enemy, monster, or vehicle unit is destroyed as the result of an attack made by this model. So if your guy does that, so destroys a vehicle or monster, they gain the saga of the Beast Slayer, which is an aura ability. And then while a friendly Space Wolves core unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack against a monster or vehicle unit, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. So you build your space. This is what's so cool about them. You build your Space Wolves character to do a specific thing. He then achieves that thing, and his buffing capability immediately just explodes for everybody else around him. And it's a deed worthy of a saga, worthy of the Warriors of Russ. And it's an amazing mechanic. Honestly, I adore it. I think I loved it in the previous thing.
It's
cool.
It's
so
really
cool.
Yeah, it's really
so much
cool.
flavor to the army.
Well, it also speaks to the changes that I think they're making across the Space Marines, right? So obviously we've had the changes for the character aura abilities, not just buffing everyone. So the idea is you don't just get a captain sitting at the back necessarily, just acting like a buff machine basically. And this with the Space Wolves especially is so flavorful because it's like, right, you want this bonus aura that's really good, send this guy up the board and get him to go smash a Carnifex in the face with his frost weapon. Oh, boom. Now all your core units are getting +1 to wound. I mean, how good is that, right? I think it makes me very excited, even though I'm not a Space Wolves player, to see what's going to be in the other codexes as well.
This is my favourite thing about them is in 8th edition, I had planned a Hero Hammer army. Because with Space Wolves, you can just about do at the end of 8th edition, you could do a 2,000-point army using Supreme Command attachments that only had characters. And then you just use you wouldn't have very many stratagems, but you'd have a warlord. You'd then have 3 command points for 3 command, 3 Supreme Command attachments, and you'd have the base amount, which was 5, wasn't it? For being Battleforged. No, it was 3 for being Battleforged, 5 for a battalion. So you'd have 6 command points. So what you could do is you could have your warlord, and then you could use the stratagem, which was the one that was in the Space Wolves supplement in what's it called, Psychic Awakening, which was the same stratagem everybody got, which was give another character a warlord trait. So what you could have done is you could have 6 characters all trying to fulfill 6 sagas. So it's Hero Hammer, right? All you're doing is playing with characters. You can't do that now because the Supreme Command attachment is somewhat different. But nonetheless, it's so cool. I mean, do you want another saga?
I think also worth pointing out there is a stratagem now that specifically affects these. I believe something like even if your character doesn't have the saga, you can, if they complete it, they can still count it as being completed. Something like that, Josh. You'll probably find that.
Yeah, probably eventually. Like
there's one that helps with charging, I think, and also like if your guy has the ability to charge already, it gives you full back and charge, which is quite cool. Because with Thunder Cav, it could work really well.
Yes, probably worth mentioning. Our Thunder Cav, Thunder Cavalry are really, really
good. I'll let the legal department explain.
Well, I was just going to. That was the question I was going to ask. Are Thunderwolf Cavalry core in this supplement? Just as a quick aside, if
I believe they are.
Yeah,
I mean, pretty much everything that's good in the Space Marine army is
book, right. So
the Victrix Honor Guard are core apparently. Thunderwolf Cavalry better fucking be, to be honest.
Are they really? Wait, the Victrix, they're core?
Yeah.
They're core. Literally,
you literally get 2 models in the box.
Yeah, no, Thunderwolf Cavalry are core.
Oh, amazing!
They are
amazing.
So good now.
Yeah.
Like, not only are they just one of the coolest models in the game, in my opinion, but they're just awesome. They now advance and charge.
Yeah, natively.
You up save with
brilliant.
Did they?
Yeah. The only thing they lost was the stratagem, which gave their bitey bites a bit more spiciness.
I mean, if people don't know, listeners don't know, the Thunderwolf Cavalry are, as the name suggests, space wolves riding giant wolves into battle. So they are just very cool.
Think a dire wolf with Jon Snow riding
it. Space wolves riding space wolves.
Oh. We'll have to explain that so it doesn't sound quite as pornographic as it probably comes across if you don't know the background.
There are no wolves on Fenris.
There are no wolves on Fenris.
I'm going to give you one more saga because it's my favourite and it's possibly the easiest one to achieve.
Yeah, I will say that as well. This is a big change with this book. They have made them considerably easier.
Actually, there's 2 here which are pretty easy. My favourite there is Resolve of the Bear. And Resolve of the Bear is each time this warlord would lose a wound, roll 1d6 on a 6. That wound is not lost. Each time an attack is made against this warlord, your opponent cannot re-roll the wound roll and cannot re-roll the damage roll, which is really, really strong. But Resolve of the Bear, Deed of the Bear, what you have to do in order to unlock the saga with your warlord is lose a wound. Once your warlord has lost 1 wound, any amount of wounds, but once he's lost 1 wound, while a friendly Space Wolves core unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit would lose a wound, roll 1d6 on a 6. That wound is not lost. Basically, take a wound somehow in the easiest way you possibly can, like walk into an Inceptor's mine or something, Cursor's mine or something, and then you get a nice feel no pain aura, which is just really good.
Which is quite handy because I don't think someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but can Space Wolves get apothecaries?
They cannot, as far as I understand it.
There you go.
So basically, they're the way it works. They're chaplains, called Wolf's priests, and they account as.
But do they get the abilities?
So they lost. They used to have an ability called Healing Balms, and I believe they've lost that in this book.
I think it's a strategy.
One moment, caller. Yeah, we should find out.
I must say, Adam, in the meantime, I'm sure you'll have liked that saga because I know you've joked many times about how everything is called the wolf something. And finally something referring to a different animal.
So I got to admit, like one of the and it's not my joke by any means. It's been around for ages, but is the joke about the joke about the wolves.
He's so legally minded. He's thinking about
in the every thing in the Space Wolves book is called like the wolf this, wolf that, wolf this, and it just gets a bit dull. And it's like, guys, if they're meant to be sort of space Vikings, there are other animals in the sort of Norse mythology and sagas, right? Bears and so it's kind of good to see that. I mean, I know one of the guys on the Deployment Zone channel, he has a Space Wolf army and he has a character called Tarvin the Bear, who I really liked.
Name drop.
Was it Quipster?
No, because this guy's army wasn't painted professionally, as I understand it. So no.
No, I can't see wolf priests in here at all. So.
That's it. Sorry, they're in the main space. That's why, because they're in the main Space Marine book. Sorry about that. Yeah,
did you say they're
in the main Space Marines book? Chaplains, underneath chaplains, it does say please add the words.
You get the keyword, right?
And so therefore they don't automatically get now the healing balms ability.
I can confirm this.
Sorry for wasting your time there, Josh. I hope you had fun.
Interestingly, you can get a wolf priest on bike then.
To follow around with all your Thunderwolf cavalry to make them even better. But so
very cool.
So a little bit of conversion work. You could put a Primaris wolf priest, which would be a Primaris chaplain on bike. You could put it on a Thunderwolf, which would be really cool.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's cool.
Are the wolves the right scale for that?
So what I would then do is I would then take the Dracoline from the Stormcast range, which is the kind of cat-looking thing, and do a little bit of green stuff work to give it fur, and then you get like a really interesting, or even make it like a serpent type thing to represent Jormungandr, the world serpent, Norse mythology.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What listeners can't see with that, sorry, just as an aside, is Reza decided to paw at the screen, but he came across less like a vicious Thunderwolf and more like a member of the cast of the musical Cats.
Rich wasn't too sure if me and Adam were aware what cats were, so just wanted to make sure we knew.
I'm pretty sure you know, because my cat attacks me half the time when I'm on these things.
Yeah. We need to make a montage at the end of the year of like all the times Rich's cat just dives into the screen and starts attacking.
Yeah, no. All I was going to say was Ragnar Blackmane, my boy. He has obviously a predefined warlord trait, which is warrior born, which is pretty good. At the start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight first that phase. And on Ragnar, that's pretty strong, because Ragnar is he's a bit of a weapon.
What's the saga on that? Please don't tell me that gives everything within 6 inches fight first as well.
I will say as well, because those abilities are so incredibly powerful in 9th edition, because combat is quite a big thing, and the Space Wolves have a relic does the same thing, and so it actually got buffed as well in this book. It's even better now, and so this is called the Armor of Russ. And so Space Wolves, bearing in mind, most people running a battalion, that's 2/3 of the Space Wolves characters. As Josh says, so many people take Ragnar because he's so incredibly good. 2/3 of them you won't be able to fight before they fight you, which is incredibly powerful.
To answer your question, Rich, yes, that is what happens. Within 6 inches, every Space Wolves core unit can fight first. But in order to achieve that saga, would anyone like to have a guess what the deed that character has to do is? Kill a model.
Yeah.
That's really hard with Ragnar, because he's not that good.
Oh, no, sorry.
He's only got 10 attacks.
An enemy character model is destroyed as a result of a melee attack made by this model.
Oh, okay. So
that's okay. That's a bit more reasonable.
I'm a bit more.
But I mean, as we were saying, he is an absolute weapon. He has he used to get a tasty little 20 attacks, but now they've nerfed him down to 10. So he's
toned it down. Yeah, really toned it down. That one.
So he's attacks 7 base, and he gets 3 additional instead of 1 as a result of its shock assault ability. So 10 attacks with Frostfang, which is strength 6 -4, damage 2, is it's nothing to be sniffed at.
While we're in the sort of characters section, and while we're talking about that, is the chap who's like Thor in the Marvel movies in there? I can't remember. Arjak Rockfist, because he chucks a hammer, doesn't he?
He can, yes.
Oh, nice.
That's so cool.
And the hammer is called Faux Hammer, which is just great. He can throw his hammer 12 inches, which is quite a long way. That's as far as a bolt pistol can shoot.
That's pretty good.
It's got big arms.
He is champion of the Kingsguard. Each time this model makes an attack against a character unit, you can reroll that hit roll. And he also has a reroll ones.
What's the Kingsguard?
That's just that's his ability. It's called Champion of the Kingsguard. Because I believe he's not actually a captain. He is basically the leader of the Wolf Guard. If I remember my Space Wolves lore properly. I don't think he's the leader of a great company.
Well, Russ was the Wolf King, right? So they're presumably the historic sort of guards of the Wolf King.
Yeah, so the Wolf Guard are like the veterans. They're usually in Terminator armor or something, and I believe he is the leader of them. So he doesn't lead a great company. He is the captain of, I believe. Don't quote me on that, or do, because whatever. But he has the anvil shield, and this model has a 3+ invulnerable save.
It's okay at 1D. I mean, do they? And while
he's basically 4, Ed, right? So he's allowed to have it.
I'm all right on it sparingly. I just fucking hate it.
And do we also again? I'm probably asking the question in this book stupidly because they're inevitably going to be in there. But the 2 dreadnoughts that I know about in the Space Wolf sort of character world, which is Bjorn the Fell-Handed and Murdfang, which just sounds like the craziest thing.
Yeah, they're in here. Yeah. Bjorn's here. Murderfang's here somewhere. Murderfang's a character, but he's an elite. He's not a HQ, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
Where is he? Lucas the Trickster makes another appearance.
Yeah, both really good now because they have got the rule where they -1 from their damage. And Bjorn especially is already very tough cookie. He's toughness 8. I believe he has a 2-up save, and I think he has a 5-up feel no pain or a 6-up feel no pain.
Bjorn.
Yeah, he's absolute weapon.
Can't be targeted, right?
Yeah.
No, he is a character. I don't know where he is, but yes, I found Murderfang. He's in here. You can reroll charge rolls made for this model. This model makes 3 additional attacks instead of 1 as a result of its shock assault ability. He has, of course, got Duty Eternal, and he cannot be a warlord and cannot have a warlord trait. Murderfang.
Cool.
But he does have the murder clause, which is the horror version of Santa.
Is that murder clause?
Yeah.
DW, their naming is so imaginative.
Murderfang wielding the murder clause. The murder claws are pretty good. They are, rather than like usually the talons are like +4 strength or something. No, these are ×2. They are AP -3 and they are damage 3. And Murderfang has 5 attacks base, and he makes 3 additional instead of 1 as a result of shock assault. So he does 8 attacks on the charge.
Wow.
Which is really, 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 really very good. The Wolf and Dreadnought is similar, but with 1 less attack.
What does the shield do on that? Sorry, for the Wolf and Dread.
On the Wolf and Dreadnought, the shield, Blizzard Shield, the bearer has a 4+ invulnerable save.
Nice.
Still very, very good. Very, very good.
I don't believe he dies when he attacks when he dies, though. No, he doesn't.
No, I think they've taken that's a subject to come on to, because the Wolfen, I believe, have taken a bit of a hit with the Nerf bat. So it might be interesting just to go through those, because I think they've changed how they fight when they die.
I think they were probably a bit too good before.
No, I definitely agree. They were the best combat unit in the game, and then they were the best combat unit in the game when you killed them as well.
Yeah. They could effectively attack 3 times in 8th edition. So the way it used to work is you could charge them in, you would then attack, and then when your opponent attacks back, you could, if they died, you'd attack again, and then you could also spend 3 CP to fight twice. So then
they had a feel no pain as well. So they were just also really durable.
So they've still got Death Frenzy. So they can still do it. When they die, they still. So each time a model in this unit is destroyed by a melee attack, if that model has not fought this phase, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking model's unit has finished making attacks and is then removed from play. So that's no different.
Oh, okay.
Well, but did it say if that model has not fought, right?
Yeah.
So isn't that the difference?
Yeah, that's the big thing. And we've seen that in the Space Marine Codex also, because only in Death.
Oh yeah, if that model has not fought,
Because before they'd fight, you'd fight back, and then they'd fight again, and then you'd be there going,
you'd really not want to kill them.
Yeah.
It was
so basically, if you're a Slaanesh army with your fight first ability and you come up against them, you're like, actually, I don't want to fight first.
Yeah.
I mean, the strategy always has been shoot them, don't go near them, because
they are super. They are. I definitely think they are good enough to take. And that's the main thing, right? We're not.
Have we also, because we kind of gone through a bit of the lore, have we explained what Wolfen are?
Well, Yeah, we haven't really. So we've discussed a lot with Josh the last time he was on about the Blood Angels and kind of the flaw in their gene seed, which is the red thirst. And the Space Wolves very similar to the Blood Angels in that respect, and they also have a flaw in their gene seed. The difference is that as the Blood Angels are to vampires, the Space Wolves are to werewolves, hence the name. And so they can turn essentially into what Wolfen, and they basically turn into werewolves, rabid beasts. And this is a kind of a dark secret of the chapter.
But they don't lose it like Blood Angels do. That's the thing. Like Blood Angels, just they are overcome with visions of the death of Sanguinius, and then they themselves believe that they are Sanguinius fighting Horus. The Wolfen just turn into basically half man, half wolf things. They still know a space wolf from a Black Legion Space Marine.
Yeah.
There's still an element of coherent. They're still
right? They don't just go fight everything.
Well, also their one manifests a bit differently, right? Because the obviously the red thirst for the Blood Angels does sort of kick in from when you become a Blood Angel, but and the Black Rage gets worse as you get older. In theory, the curse of the Wolfen basically is that when their aspirants get the gene seed put in them, what they call the Canis Helix, which is part of the transformation into a space wolf. They're sort of sent off into the wild as part of their trials, and a percentage of them they all get a bit feral, but a lot of them then control it and come back. The ones that turn into the Wolfen are basically those who don't control it, and they just become Wolfen. But as you say, they're still sort of compos mentis. They still sort of know what's going on. They're just like driven by a need to sort of go out and fight and be wolfy and werewolfy, I guess.
It doesn't sort of happen on the eve of battle, which is what happens with Blood Angels, and they kind of
take them in the moment.
Yeah, a lot of them they also don't realize it's happening. There's loads of kind of stuff in their codex of like little stories of basically like a tactical squad, like getting ready, checking weapons, and standing in a line, and the chaplain's just walking down the line and like inspecting them, and then he just touches one on the shoulder and just leads him off, and they all go, "Oh, Jimmy's losing his nut." But
Flurky, you're looking hairier than you were earlier.
Yeah, so whereas the Wolfen, it's slightly different. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so they have changed slightly, as we say. They are a little bit less all powerful. One of my favorite games though has been against Space Wolves. It was Blood Angels versus Space Wolves, where a unit of 10 Death Company and a unit of 6 Wolfen cancelled each other out. It was absolutely fantastic.
As it should be.
I think I watched you play that game.
Yeah, the Death Company went in, murderized them,
armies,
just absolutely marmalized them. But then the Wolfen, in their death throes, marmalized me, and it was exactly as it should have been.
Okay. Right. Well, let's cover one more part of the book then, Josh, before we wrap up. So, what do you want to cover before we finish?
Me?
Yeah, you've got the book.
Well, you're in charge of this mess, mate.
I'm a bit. I can go a question. So I believe they've done something to the relics where you can make certain weapons like frost weapons now, which I think is a quite cool.
That's a
cool touch. It's strat. Oh, okay. I thought it was like mastercrafted weapon,
which actually does cover what there are. I am a bit sad on 2 losses in that book. There are a few strats that are gone, and one of them is the lone wolf stratagem, which was just cool. It was so cool. And essentially what it was is when your squad was killed to a man, you could spend a CP and make him a character, and I think give him an extra attack and something.
Oh, that's quite cool.
And I was like, yeah, just cool. But then they got rid of it, and the line of the wolf stratagem is not in there. Hopefully it'll be in the Dark Angels book, which is the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels have a massive rivalry, we spoke about in the Lion podcast, and you can actually spend a CP at the start of your game if you've got Space Wolves and Dark Angels allied, and 2 of your characters on a 4-up, they take a wound, but then they get an extra attack and extra strength. So it's really there's some really
that's awesome.
Doesn't like the whole army get some buffs? No, it's just the character, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just them. And plus on weapon skill, I think as well that you also got. But yeah, so incredible. And like now that Space Thunder Cavalry are really, really good, I would be totally tempted just to run an army of like an Outrider of Ravenwing and an Outrider of Thunderwolf Cavalry, and just a massive, it's just led by two absolute smash.
That's something that should.
I mean, it is a shame that one's gone. I've got the stratagems open in front of me. Again, I can't see any 3 CPers. Which is nice. There's all 1 CP and 2 CP, or in this case, countercharge 1/0 CP.
That's what a heroic intervention, but a character gets it for free, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 Space Wolves unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to perform a heroic intervention. If it is within 6 inches of 6 inches horizontally of an enemy unit, and when performing a heroic intervention with that unit, you can move each model in that unit up to 6 inches. All other rules for heroic interventions still apply. This stratagem costs 0 CP if the Space Wolves unit you select is a character. So basically, every combat phase, one of your characters is doing a 6-inch.
Yeah.
They've also got they have +1 to wound, I believe, as well. Savage Strike, I think it's called, which is just incredibly good when that comes up. I
think that's the one that people are saying you stick on your Thunderbolts as well, just to give them that extra.
Yeah, because they get extra attacks with their wolves as well, which then becomes somewhat relevant.
And, I know this is like skipping on from stratagems, but they've also got their own psychic discipline again, which they have some really strong combos in there as well. Which I believe they might have a spell that also gives something fight last. Unless I'm.
Yeah, I think they do.
Just out 3 ways.
Trying to see if I can find it. So
there it is. Murderous Hurricane. The Rune Priest bellows.
Yeah, subtly named.
The Rune Priest bellows an ancient curse, and within moments his foes are all but consumed in a hurricane of freezing shards, 1,000 blades of psychically formed ice plunging into their flesh. Which sounds nice, doesn't it? Malediction. Murderous Hurricane has a warp charge value of 6. That's
oh my god.
Cheap. You've manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of this psyker until the start of your next psychic phase. If that unit is not wholly on or within a terrain feature, that unit cannot fire Overwatch. In the fight phase, that unit is not eligible to fight until after all eligible Space Wolves units from your army have done so.
I didn't realize it had 2 effects.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, stuff like that is quite good because I think although Overwatch has become obviously is now a stratagem rather than just something everyone can do. I think one thing that's quite interesting is there's quite a lot actually, or I mean, I say quite a lot. We haven't had that many codexes and supplements thus far. But there's quite a lot of like free Overwatch being sprinkled into the codexes, right? Like, so the Necron, I mean, not that I think this would be that relevant against Necrons, but the Necron Canoptek Doomstalker gets it for free. And GW have clarified that when they have strategies which say, this unit overwatches as if it was the target of the charge or whatever, it's not for, for let's say 2 CP, you don't have to pay the additional 1 on top. The Ultramarines one as well, where the 3 units overwatch, that's another big one. The Deathwatch, obviously, I think we were saying have one. Yeah, so that's, I mean, leaving aside the fight last thing, the Overwatch is actually really useful, especially for an army that wants to get into combat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think also to Rich's point about how it does multiple things, that's the amazing about that is you're probably going to take that anyway for the fight last ability. And then, it's always good when you can tech into things that you're not paying for. So you're not paying for that ability to turn off Overwatch. You just get it if you're taking the ability to fight, fight for your opponents. And that's always so useful from a strategic point of view. Josh,
5 out of 6 of their powers are manifested on a warp charge value of 6.
It's the wolf number.
It's really good.
Well, what's the one that isn't on the 6?
The one that isn't is Jaws of the World Wolf, which is warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the psyker. Roll 1d6 for each model in that unit, adding 1 to the result if the result of the psychic test was 9 or more. For each roll of a 6 plus, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound.
Okay.
There's no limit on that, which is good. So a unit of 30 Orc boys, 30 dice.
Have they still got that the Living Lightning, the power with the arcing mortal wounds?
They do. Has a warp charge value of 6, which I think is better than it was. If manifested, the closest enemy unit, and visible, has to be visible, suffers D3 mortal wounds, then roll 1d6 on a 2 to 4. The closest other enemy unit within 6 inches of and visible to that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 5+, it suffers D3 mortal wounds.
Your rune priest becomes a Sith.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Unlimited power!
Wolflord Sidious.
Yeah. Someone make that conversion, please.
Cool.
Very,
very, very exciting time.
Very, very good. They are like, what I think is really cool about releasing the Spacewalls and the Deathwatch books alongside each other is that they are both armies that are definitely up your alley if you love narrative-driven forces. You can do some spice with both of them, obviously, but because they're both Space Marines, right? And Space Marines is where the spice lives. But to release them together is definitely it's a narrative gamer's dream, because there's just so much opportunity there for sprinkling all of that in. And this is why I'm hoping Death Guard and Blood Angels release on the same weekend, because that's where the absolute fuck you spice is going to be.
So we have
the delicious narrative in these two, all those fluffy casual gamers, and then we have Blood Angels and Death Guard for all those who want to make all of their friends hate them.
Well, I mean,
I'll be playing you, Ed, and
not that I'm volunteering for that, but I'm at the moment. So at this time of recording, GW is putting up a lot of stuff because there's the new edition of Blood Bowl coming out, which is the sort of the American football tabletop game. And look, I know a lot of people love it. I know it looks like a very fun game, but honestly, G-dubs, I couldn't give a toss. Give me my Death Guard book. Give me my Blood Angels book. It's all I want. I'm sorry, I'm being really horrible to people who play the small games there. I apologise to anyone who does.
Blood Bowl is an interesting example because that is very, very popular. But we haven't actually talked about it on this podcast, but the terrain book.
So is that the book where if you go to a tournament, they ask you to bring your terrain? How much room do they think I've got?
Well, I mean, it depends what's in there. What is it? Is it been announced?
So you'd bring your army. It's 2,000 point a game of Warhammer 40k, but you bring your army, and then the terrain rules are decisively more complicated.
So could you not just go, I'm playing a melee army, I have no terrain?
No, so you have to bring a certain number for the game size, and you can only bring certain I think it's so like a 2,000 point game. I think is you bring 3 pieces, I think off the top of my head, each at minimum, and you can only pick like 1 obscuring, and then like 2 can have certain other traits. So it is supposed to give like balance and stuff, but yeah, it's
is this from a competitive gaming standpoint?
Oh no, they have said it's for competitive gaming.
Yeah, they've actually specified it's for it. Yeah,
so tournament, and you are supposed to bring your 2,000 point army and terrain to a tournament.
No.
I mean, setting up a game takes a while.
Can I bring a 2,000 point army of terrain?
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly.
2,000 points of Hammerfall bunkers.
Yeah, and Fortress of Absolution.
Yeah,
here's an Aquila strong point. This is my army. I'm literally bringing automated guns.
Yeah. We can't. I mean, just to finish off, I was going to say I can't be rude about specialist games, because as soon as GW, and please, if you're listening to this, please take this seriously and do this. As soon as they announce Battlefleet Gothic, I'm going to be all over it.
Yeah, I think you and the rest of the world. Although I'm hoping that Battlefleet Gothic is in the same scale as Adeptus Titanicus. Because that would be amazing. Because you would get like strike cruisers that are about as as long as your arm. If it was in it won't be. Of course, it won't be. But,
just looking at my arm, Jesus.
Yeah, because
sanguineous.
Can you imagine the battle reports? It's like, and the cruiser Vengeance of Baal is making a slight starboard turn. Oh, and he's knocked the Chaos Cruiser onto the floor. Automatic victory.
Well, have any of you played X-Wing?
No, I've seen it.
Right, so X-Wing is obviously the little you play with fighter craft effectively. I think the largest thing you can use on that is a Corellian cruiser. Yeah, the what's it called? The
Tantive 4. the big one.
Yeah,
layers
or
ship
sort
from
of,
the beginning.
but like
We are
X-wing is supposed to be a fighter level. X-wing is supposed to be like Aeronautica or Aeronautica. Actually, yeah, X-wing is based off of Aeronautica, so you play on a fighter-sized combat. Whereas you've also got Star Wars Armada, which is what you can play with Star Destroyers and things. And I really hope that when they come around to doing Battlefleet Gothic, it is that kind of scale in terms of Star Wars Armada.
How big for reference is a Star Destroyer?
They're big in Star Wars Armada.
They're about. I mean, no one can see this because I'm just holding my hands up to the camera, but I think the Star Destroyer is about yay long. I have seen they do a model of the
Bane blade.
Yeah.
Like reference.
No. Yeah, it's bigger than a Bane blade. It's like big. They do a one yay. No, but they do like the models for or I've seen someone, I don't know whether they 3D printed it, but there are rules for it apparently. I saw someone made like the Superstar Destroyer, and it was about 3 foot long. Like it was huge. So yeah, it's
bigger than
they
BDR.
get pretty big. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's I hope Battlefleet Gothic is on that scale because that would be awesome. Like
I'm not strong enough to lift the model.
Huh?
I wouldn't be strong enough to lift the model.
I have a very small flat.
But like that's I mean, yeah. I also what I want is from Battlefleet Gothic. This is just wish list nonsense now. But like like the enormous ships, like the Vengeful Spirit. I can't remember what the class is called. What's it?
Gloriana. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want is in Gothic, Battlefleet Gothic, for it to be a Horus Heresy based game. Yeah. So you're only playing with Space Marine fleets, much like Aeronautica Imperialis was. Sorry, not Aeronautica Imperialis. Adeptus Titanicus was a Horus Heresy based game. I want Battlefleet Gothic to initially be a Horus Heresy based game where you can play with, and you can only include one Gloriana class sized ship, and for it to be about 12 to 15 inches long, and that is the scale at which I want it to be played.
It'd be very cool. You can have the Phalanx. You can have seeing as we've been talking about the Space Wars, you can have the Frankel, which is their actually wait, yeah, the Frankel is a Gloriana class.
I thought it was the Hrakenfell or something.
They have a ship called the Crackle.
It's HFRANKEL. Yeah, the wolf ship. Let's just call it that.
And the
wolf ship, frost ship.
The murder ship. Is it the Conqueror? That was the word.
Conqueror's the World Eaters one.
World Eaters one with the versus clause.
What's the Death Guard one called?
The smelly ship.
Yeah, it becomes smelly very quickly.
The Terminus Est.
No, there's two. So they have the Terminus Est, but then they have the other one, which Mortarian's on, because the Terminus Est is the one Typhus uses to knock about in. Yeah, the SS COVID-19.
SS COVID.
Yeah, no, that's why I completely agree with you. I mean, yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Warhammer 40,000.
Oh yeah.
Well, yes, I think we've got to the natural conclusion of
by wandering off on other subjects.
No, Ed, we're going to keep going.
We've got to the natural conclusion of talking about an entirely different game. So I think let's.
You do this when I'm not on, like. I've listened to all of the podcasts, but I can't remember if you do this when I'm not on. Because last time, I think when we did it the first time, we ended up talking about Battles for Middle Earth for ages.
Which I wasn't in, and I was the one painting Battle for Middle Earth stuff at the time. I'd like to point it out.
We invited you, Rich, and you said no. So you're the one who can.
Yeah. That might be true. I didn't say no.
You said something about hating Sanguinius and then hung up the phone. It was really bizarre.
I'm too busy painting my Frodo.
It was long to paint. It's such a big model.
I'm also disappointed that we didn't get to have Quipster on this podcast, because one of my favorite things in all of the episodes that I listen to, which I'm not on, is you lot ripping the shit out of him. And I was really excited to be able to join in.
I've added that onto my CV as a skill I've got.
I think we have a decent amount of that in this podcast, and the listeners can be reassured that it will be included in every podcast to which any of us are present.
But I know, Ed, you're angling to wrap up. But before you do, does anyone have any any digs they just want to get in on?
Well, I do have a prepared statement. No, I don't. Love you.
Yeah, we love you, Quipster. Really.
The thing is, he knows that we love him, so he just gets a bigger head from this.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we should all hate him?
No, we should talk about him not at all. They probably get more annoyed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think let's call it there then, guys. So let's do the classic round of where our Instagrams are and where Josh is all over the internet. So Reza, where can people find you, mate?
At Reza Prime.
Brilliant. And legal department, whereabouts are you?
I am at ADR Wargaming on Instagram.
Okay. And Josh, can I get your top 5 favorite mediums?
Basically, right? You've got Instagram, you've got YouTube, you've got Ko-Fi, and you've got Patreon. Those are the main ones, and they are all Warhipster. But I'm also hoping to start selling some T-shirts and merchandise and things like painting mats and things like that for all of you out there.
We will wear those T-shirts for the podcast, which will not help you at all.
Because I've been looking for ages to find someone who can make almost like an A2 sized painting mat. Because whilst the A3 ones are really good, it's not A3, is it? It's a bit bigger than A4. The ones that they do from Games Workshop, they're good, but they're not big enough for me. So I'm hoping to be able to start distributing those very soon.
If you say contrast 3 times backwards in the mirror at midnight as well, Josh will appear and tell you how to paint your models properly.
No, I'll just appear and comment on how you're not using spot highlights. You fucking casual.
Just gonna hide all my models.
Okay, well,
don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, Ed. And your Instagram.
Sorry about mine. Follow us at the Conclave of 40k on Instagram.
And your Facebook.
And our Facebook. Please do like and subscribe. And if you can rate us on Apple Music or anything like that, that is actually super helpful. So please do.
It's not Apple Music.
Yeah,
for our album.
iTunes. I don't know these internets. All right.
Yeah. If you have a rating system, what we're trying to say is, if you have a rating system on the podcast, on whatever podcast app or medium you choose to listen to this on, and you think that us babbling on for an hour has been very entertaining, or if you don't, frankly, please just give us a nice rating, because that helps us, and we can start delivering more of this sort of inane content directly into your ears.
That's one of my favorite things about the rating system, is that if you get enough 1-star reviews, your podcast will be shown more. If you get enough 5-star reviews, your podcast will be shown more. It doesn't matter. So just rate whatever you like.
No, I have a.
Okay, please, can people aim for the 5-star side? If I can make a request,
we can't crush Rich's low self-esteem anymore. Please go for the 5 stars.
I'm already bald. I can't lose any more hair.
Rich, it's a podcast. They didn't have to know that. We could have kept up the illusion.
I have.
Sorry, were you like given a 1-star rating at secondary school or something? Is that what caused it?
Just read 1 star, bald.
No, I sat down for a parents' evening once, and then one of my teachers went, "Rich shit, how's his older brother?" And then sat there, spoke about my older brother the whole entire time to my dad.
Well, I know how I'm starting the next podcast.
That's pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was like,
low note.
It was an RE teacher. Who cares?
All right, but thank you very much for listening, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.
We are such nerds.